Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune in to the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's go. Welcome to the Morning Woodward Show. We do not have Jeff Iafrate today. It is a Friday, November 3rd. I am Flannel Sam and filling in on the desk, the one, the only, the ball knower, Lukas Klotz.
It's an honor. I don't know how I could possibly fill in for one Jeff Iafrate, saying that he is the franchise, but all jokes aside, Jeff's getting his wisdom teeth taken out today. Hope everything goes good with that. But until then, we're going to be cooking Sam
Yes,
flannel.
so is he going to get...
Rocking the flannel again today, by the way, too.
Absolutely.
He brought the flannel back out, everybody.
When it takes up so much space in my closet, when I only have a finite amount of shirts to choose from, sometimes a flannel is just going to be a part of it, and Jeff is getting his wisdom teeth taken out, so on the next show, is he going to be a little less wise, dare I say?
Yeah.
I will see myself out on that one, and because we're doing a little bit of lineup shuffling today, guess who we have in the TD booth? We've got the one, the only, JB Smooth.
The Brian Branch of this network.
Absolutely, a JB Smooth. Of all the JB Smooths in the world, you're the JB Smoothiest. How are you doing today, my man?
I appreciate that, guys. I'm a little tired, but hey, I'm up and grinding just like you guys. So let's get it.
We
up and at 'em.
Yes, if anybody, if there, I'll tell you what. If there's any three people in this room that have a right to be a little bit tired and to be going on fumes but are still keeping going, these are the ones in the room by my side today, because in the sound booth, we have the honor of being graced with their presence by the one, the only Detroit Kool-Aid, fresh off of probably being disappointed by that Pistons game last night. How you feel this morning?
I feel good. You know, the only solace I could look forward to is knowing I was going to be on this Morning Woodward show.
Oh, well, that is...
Holding it down for our guy, Jeff.
You know, that is absolutely way too kind. We have a jam-packed show planned for you guys today. With it being the bye week for the Detroit Lions, we're going to talk about guys who maybe could step up in the second half to finish off the season strong. We're going to give out some grades. There's a certain award that a certain head coach is favored for right now. I think you guys can infer who that is. We're going to go around the NFL since we've got the Detroit Kool-Aid here. We're going to talk about the Detroit Pistons. Unfortunately, they disappointed a bit last night. And let's just get this out of the way. The Redwings and the Pistons, they did both play. They did both lose. And
It's a tragedy.
yeah, and here's the thing. And I hate to say this because people are going to say that I'm being a little bit overreactionary. At one point in the season, let's start with the Red Wings. They were 5-1 coming off of a huge home victory over Calgary. But in their last 5 games, they've only managed to be able to pick up 3 points. They have 1 win, 4 losses, one of those losses being overtime. So I still think it's playoffs or bust, and they needed to maybe pick up some home wins. They haven't been able to do that. Same with the Detroit Pistons. We were all at that game versus Chicago when the Pistons just basically dog-walked the Bulls from start to finish. And then lately, they've lost 3 in a row, and they have some tough games coming up. Their next 4, I believe it is Phoenix, Golden State, at Milwaukee, and home versus Philadelphia.
Yeesh.
So, yeah.
Yeesh.
After such a hot start, we're now starting to worry about, are they going to get off to a 3-7 or 2-8 start? So we're going to talk more about the Pistons in the second segment with Detroit Kool-Aid, because let's just be honest. If there's anybody at Woodward Sports who you want to hear Pistons talk from, it's not me. It's Detroit Kool-Aid. But first, there is a game that occurred last night in the NFL, something that I am not very happy about. Those damn Pittsburgh Steelers and that damn Kenny Pickett.
The Kenny Pickett-led Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, Kenny Pickett, what a bum. They beat the Tennessee Titans 20-16. I'll tell you what, Lukas Klotz, your boy Jaylen Warren, he had his I would say, coming out party.
No, he's done that numerous times, man. That's why I'm saying Jaylen, he does that probably like every 3 games. But they still give that trust to Najee Harris. It makes no sense. But JB, I sent you these graphics. Pull up the one where it's comparing the fourth quarter drives. Because you say Kenny Pickett's ass, Flannel.
He is.
You can't stand the man, but look at this. Take this for stats. Ooh. Highest PFF grade in fourth quarter / overtimes score within 7. So within a touchdown since 2022. Kenny Pickett is up there with your boy Patrick Mahomes and the GOAT, Tom Brady, for the highest PFF grade
No, I mean,
in the fourth quarter when trailing by a touchdown. Kenny Pickett's a winner, man.
Oh, he is not a winner. It must be nice when you're able to play like shit basically every single game for the first 3 quarters and your defense is able to keep you in it. I mean, I'll give credit to the Steelers defense. Alex Highsmith, a couple of sacks. TJ Watt, constant pressure on Will Levis. And they picked him off. They did pick off Will Levis, which is something that Jeff said that they would do. And at some point, a rookie quarterback is going to go sort of baited into mistakes. But yeah, obviously Kenny Pickett, he's had some fourth quarter comebacks, but I hate how he's always able to play like absolute shit. Because I've got some numbers on Kenny Pickett. I've got numbers. Kenny Pickett this season is 24th in the NFL in passing yards with 1,490. 28th in completion percentage at 61.3. 24th in yards per attempt, tied for 27th with 6 touchdown passes. His quarterback rating is 29th in the NFL at 36.5, and his QBR is 25th at 81.6. So basically what I'm saying is Kenny Pickett is not even a top 25 quarterback in the NFL by any statistical measure, and the Steelers are 4th worst in scoring offense, 5th worst, 8th worst in yards per game, and 5th worst in passing yards per game. So they are winning these games despite Kenny Pickett. I hate that guy so much. How do they keep winning?
Because Kenny Pickett.
Oh, because Kenny Pickett. He's a consummate winner. In all honesty,
I had a parlay, okay? Very, very tragic case, and I'm sure a lot of you did the same thing. George Pickens, 40 yards against the Titans secondary. You think it'd be a lock. George Pickens finished with 2 yards for -1 receiving yards. And that is not George Pickens' fault. I'm sorry. Kenny Pickett, he's a different type of bad. He is a different type of bad. I think if he wasn't in Mike Tomlin's system, he would have 0 wins over the course of his career right now. Ooh. Like if he had like to uplift a team, like if he was down in Houston right now, they're not winning a game. No. They're not. Kenny Pickett, I before the season I was like, you know what, Kenny Pickett does pretty much everything good but nothing elite. I can't think of what Kenny Pickett does outside of his mobility that is good right now. I mean, the man, what was he, the 20th overall pick?
Yeah, he was the only first-round quarterback that year. That is going to go down as a historically bad quarterback class.
I would take Mac Jones over Kenny Pickett.
I would too.
And it's not even close at this point in my mind.
Shoot, I would almost take Desmond Ritter over Kenny Pickett.
I know.
I'm starting to see that's where I do have a little bit of hate glasses on for Kenny Pickett. I don't know if I would take Desmond Ritter over him. It's always been my pet peeve, and everybody who's watched me long enough knows this, that quarterbacks, they seem to get like 100% of the credit, even though, and this is another thing in which the Pittsburgh Steelers did well last night. As I said, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris had one of his best games of the season. They ran the ball pretty damn effectively. A lot of their drives were keyed by the running game. And of course, the defense, after Will Levis had his coming out party, his 4 touchdown, 0 interception debut game, he came back down to earth a little bit. He still played well, but that's what's going to happen when you are a rookie quarterback. Yes.
Because I know you're not a Mike Tomlin hater by any means.
No,
but I know you're not the biggest Mike Tomlin fan as far as, like, I know Lindsay says he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, all that type of stuff, and you kind of give some pushback. But can you see now why people just respect Mike Tomlin so much? Because this man has Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada running his offense. And he still finds a way for this team to win games.
I mean, here's the thing. I've never said that Mike Tomlin is a bad coach or anything like that.
No, that's why I wanted to make that clear.
He is most certainly a Hall of Famer, but I don't put him in the same category as guys like Bill Belichick or Andy Reid, for example, or a former Steelers coach like Chuck Noll. And those are the type of names in which I don't think he is. I think he's closer to guys like John Harbaugh, guys like Mike McCarthy even, guys like Sean Payton than he is to, like, I'd say, Andy Reid or Bill Belichick. That's all I'm saying. He has had a lot of playoff flameouts. That's the thing. One Super Bowl win, all of those winning seasons, at some point you almost become like the Peyton Manning-led Indianapolis Colts, or the Atlanta Braves of the 90s. You get in the dance a lot, but you don't often win it. And it's been, since the 2009 season. That's all I'm saying. He's a Hall of Fame level coach, but people talk about, I think they put him in conversations he doesn't belong. Okay. Is that
that's fair. It's not dramatic by any means. What do you think about Will Levis, though?
I mean, he was okay. That was kind of a typical Will Levis. That was kind of more what you expected, but a little bit better.
I watching last night, man. I think I'm not going to go to the stretch where Will Levis is going to be elite, but I think watching Will Levis last night, I think it showed you enough that man's going to be a good NFL quarterback. Because I know they didn't put up that many points, but the fact is, you saw Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt in that backfield almost every play. Mm-hmm. He was very poised. He was composed. I think he made numerous NFL like top-notch throws that crosser to D-Hop. I believe it was like late in the third quarter where D-Hop kind of stuttered off the line, and it was against a linebacker. For whatever reason, they had a linebacker on D-Hop on like a 3rd and 8, and Will Levis put it right where it needed to be, and that was an NFL throw. I thought he showed great poise. I think the man's going to be solid at the bare minimum. I think that's the Titans quarterback of the future.
Yeah, at this point, I would probably agree with you. He found one of his new favorite targets in Kyle Phillips, a very Lukas Klotz style player. Absolute
another UCLA slot receiver. Shout out Jake Bobo.
So who's going to be more impactful this season, Jake Bobo or Kyle Phillips? Who's your new godson? Which one would you rather
I'm going to
choose?
go with Bobo. I'm going to go with Bobo. Kyle Phillips muffed that punt like 2 weeks ago, and it didn't seem to make D-Hop too happy, and I just think Jake Bobo's got everything rolling for him right now. I'm gonna go slightly Jake Bobo for the UCLA slot receivers.
Absolutely. For all of you Simpsons fans, you'll know about Bobo. That was an episode where that was Mr. Burns' bear. So when I say Bobo, that is what I am referencing. All right, JB Smooth.
I still remember that episode.
You do
too,
remember that
way,
episode.
So.
That is an all-time great episode. Give me my bear. All right, JB Smooth. Yeah, I'm sure you caught up with the game. What were your takeaways? Are the Steelers good, or are they just finding a way to merchant these wins that I just can't stand? What's your stance on this, JB?
They are just slowly, somehow finding a way to pull out these wins. Shout out to Mike Tomlin. I mean, you got to give him credit for this, no matter what. He's doing the best he can with the garbage that Kenny Pickett is throwing out there. And I'm just as upset as Lukas is about this whole George Pickens thing. What the hell happened there? I don't understand this. Deontay Johnson, yes, you expected him to go off. Jalen Warren as well, too. Najee Harris, shout out, because he helped my fantasy team out a lot, even though he's done absolutely nothing this season. But still, George Pickens, you cannot allow this man to just sit here and have 2 catches for -1 yard. How is this possible?
Yeah,
they were bracketing him the whole night. If the Titans were going to make sure of one thing, it was that George Pickens didn't beat him deep. But you know who stepped up for him?
Deontay Johnson.
Toledo Rocket.
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson. He looked good, man. He looked really good. And he finally got, I believe it was like since 2021, he got his first touchdown. And go figure, it was when I had a Jalen Warren anytime touchdown on, but didn't happen.
You know what?
Happy for the Rocket, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, and Deontay Johnson is a guy that I think you're very high on, a guy that like a lot of us NFL fans think that a nice George Pickens, Deontay Johnson wide receiver combination, it could be, hey, I mean, Deontay Johnson when George Pickens is bracketed, when he's taken out of the game, that's when having Deontay Johnson back is Kenny Pickett's best friend. It just is.
If that receiving core was somewhere else, it would be so deadly.
Yeah.
It's so sad to see them just wasted in Pittsburgh right now.
No, it is 100% sad. Coming up next, we're going to go to break. Coming up next, we're going to talk to our very own Detroit Kool-Aid about the Detroit Pistons coming off of I would say a disappointing loss at New Orleans. Kind of expected, but the way that they just kind of got down in the first half was, we'll talk to Kool-Aid about it. But first, I have to tell you about where I get my haircuts, and that, of course, is Lady Jane's. Come to Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men. They give me my A-plus haircuts, and they can give you your A-plus haircuts as well. Shout out JC. I got mine done last weekend for an award-winning haircut experience. Register to win a trip of your dreams and all expenses paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament. That's right, no expense spared for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
We've just received word. The world's cannabis supply has vanished. The public is outraged and has taken to the streets in response to this tragedy. The individual responsible acted alone, and we can only hope they will make things right soon.
Alrighty, let me tell you guys about 5 Iron Golf. Downtown's newest sports bar has over 13 TrackMan simulators, certified instructors, and most importantly, a full bar and restaurant. 5 Iron Leagues are back and compete nationwide for a chance to win a trip to the Dominican Republic. Bring a foursome or sign up as an individual to be placed on a team at 5irongolf.com. Make sure you use code Woodward10 for 30% off this league. That is 5irongolf.com. Check them out.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show, Friday, November 3rd. I am Flannel Sam. We got Lukas Klotz on the desk filling in for Jeff Iafredi. He will be back Tuesday. We got JB Smooth on the ones and twos. And we have Detroit Kool-Aid in the sound booth. And speaking of Detroit Kool-Aid, we want to talk about the Detroit Pistons last night.
Stuns.
Absolutely. They lost 125-116 at the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans team that was without Zion Williamson, by the way. And honestly, that score was not as close as the final score indicated. And first, I want to ask this question first of all, just a very basic, broad question. Kool-Aid, what are your takeaways from last night's game?
Last night's game is kind of what I expected, man. You know, this team is still a team in transition. It's a team in assessment. And honestly, shame on you Piston fans out there. We asked for this for years, a young squad that we could have hope in, that we can see the future. And I believe that these losses sting because we do see the potential, but they're not quite there yet as it relates to a full product. Not as it relates to their current roster, because they have some big injuries still in Bojan Bogdanovic. He was their best player last year after Cade Cunningham went out. And they're still waiting on the return of Monty Morris, who tweeted out yesterday that he is this much closer to getting back.
I know, I saw you put that video up on social of him shooting around. Actually got a lot of love.
Yeah.
So, and we can start off here. JB mentioned before the show, and I didn't realize this. I couldn't watch too much of the game. I was busy working here. Went and got some work, got a workout in at Planet Fitness, shout out. But Killian Hayes, he had the most minutes of any Detroit Piston last night. I don't care what's going on in the game, Kool-Aid. I am not okay with that. I don't care if the man's putting up 15 points, which is probably damn near his career high. I do not care. Killian Hayes cannot have the most minutes for the Detroit Pistons in any game. Am I wrong there? Am I wrong?
I don't believe that you're wrong on that behalf. I was glad to see him have a decent game. He shot 50% from three. He shot 50% from the floor, 10 points, 9 assists, and he didn't overdo things. I think the reality last night that we saw him playing the most minutes in the game is because from a defensive standpoint, he was one of the only players that was actually, to me, above par. They got ran off the court in the first half. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they pulled some things together in the second half, but they got absolutely ran off the court. Jalen Duren didn't look as springy coming back from the ankle injury, and it was noticeable. It was very, very noticeable, and I think that ultimately that's why Killian stayed on the court, is because of the type of defense that he can play. The last couple games, he was kind of hanging his head low with some bad shooting nights, but we saw the first 3 drop for him. You saw the exasperation. You know, we know that time is of the essence. The clock is ticking for him. But I think it was more or less the defense is why he was on the court.
Well, and honestly, Killian Hayes, I'm the first person that wants to bury Killian Hayes when he plays a bad game like he did the night before. But he actually was, I would say he was fine. The player, though, and I wouldn't say that I'm worried. I just want to kind of give a little bit of caution. Asar Thompson has obviously been a defensive dynamo. He's had a successful rookie season to some extent so far. But I'm a little bit worried that he's going to be too much of an offensive liability, particularly his three-point shooting, which is right now at 6% on 3 attempts per game. Am I being a little bit too overreactionary, or is there, at least for his rookie season, is there any merit to my concern?
Let him know, Kool-Aid.
No. Again, shame on you, Pistons fans. He is a rookie.
Kool-Aid. 6.
I know. He is a rookie.
Take it,
Listen, even Cade Cunningham said that coming from college to the NBA, something happened to his three-point shot. Now, Asar Thompson hasn't necessarily been the strongest three-point shooter, but he has been somebody that we recognize as his overall impact on the game. He's going to be able to overcome that. The way that the defense was playing, I mean, he's going to have to get coached up on this. There were a couple times where he probably should have used his athleticism, his speed, his ability to handle the rock, and get closer into the range where he can make those types of buckets, force fouls, force the contact, force the issue. I don't look at this as a concern. All across his stats, you know, if you take the threes out, he did shoot 50% everywhere else. And he still, looking at the stats here, put up 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and still found a way to 16.7 free throw attempts, which seems to be like gold on this Pistons team because nobody else can get there other than Alec Burks.
And I mean, to back up kind of what Kool-Aid's saying, like the kid's 19 years old.
I know.
And when you drafted Asar, the Pistons, they weren't expecting him to be this offensive playmaker. They were expecting him at year one, and Kool-Aid, correct me if I'm wrong, they knew his defense was there. This was why I think he got comped to Andre Iguodala a lot of times, because it's very solid defense. He can get a bucket if he wants to, but he's going to be a playmaker more so anything, whether it's on the offensive side, because we've seen him numerous times be a great facilitator. Sometimes I think he drives it to a little bit too much and gets him into trouble as far as when he drives and tries to make that extra pass. But even on the defensive side, he gets blocks, he gets steals, and those turn into transition points. So I think Asar, there's definitely no need to panic on him. I think if you're going to panic on anybody, I think Asar is one of the last places to look, especially because he's still in his first 10 games of his career.
Sure, and I'm not panicking over Asar Thompson. I'm obviously not calling him a bust. I mean, his defense, his playmaking, his rebounding, that all has been there. But in a game like last night, I think he can't shoot 17 shots. He can't go 0 from 3, I believe, on 6 attempts. That's just something that will lose you some games. And obviously, they weren't winning that game no matter what. But still, it was eye-opening to see, like, why does Asar Thompson keep shooting? They honestly need to almost ban him from the 3-point line at this point.
No, but how is he going to develop?
He's not 6% at this point.
It's got to go up.
Okay, I mean, it can't get
it's got to go up.
All right. And they're 2-4, and they have 4 tough games coming up. But all right, but I will say this. How about Marcus Sasser, though? Here, I'm going to go to positive talk.
There we go. Positive rookie talk. Positive rookie talk.
Yes, there is a rookie whose, I would say, his offensive game has certainly less questions than Asar Thompson. And I would say Marcus Sasser has been one of the bright spots of the season. Kool-Aid, you've been watching him closer probably than anybody at this network. How impressive has he been, especially for a late first-round pick?
Listen, out of all the players that I've talked to, Marcus Sasser is the one I've got to ask the most questions to, as well as in the media scrums and such. And you could just tell his confidence. He's one of those guys that's just like, you know what? When the coach thinks I'm ready, I'm going to do work. Because you can tell he knows that he's ready to ball. And honestly, Jeff was the one who, as soon as we drafted him, he was like, you know what? I can't wait to see what Marcus Sasser is going to do, because he's a dog. 4 years at Bama. He was their leader there. They asked Asar Thompson and other people, like, hey, did you watch college ball? And they was like, yeah, we know that Marcus Sasser was that guy. He was that deal. And I kept saying it. He is elite with being able to create space and handle the rock.
He's so quick.
So fast, man. And his ability, his confidence is kind of just oozes off the pages, man. So it's just like, with Marcus Sasser, I have no qualms about him, man. There was a time where I wondered after that first preseason game, and that's why it's always about what Rod Beard of Detroit News says, temper, temper, temper. What this season is about, ultimately, is figuring out what's floating and what's sinking, because they have a boatload of cap space to come. Troy Weaver said after they did draft Asar Thompson that this season for them, as it relates to their rebuild, and he said, listen, the last year was supposed to be an assessment year, and I do believe that's why ultimately Sadiq Bey was traded. Early, they kind of made that decision kind of early. They started moving him around. But with all of the injuries, they couldn't see how these parts and pieces fit together. And with a new coach coming in, the players that they had here and the ways that they were building this team was trending towards a Casey type team. Mm-hmm. Now they're looking at how can they get this team from hopeful, young core that we believe in, to putting the right pieces around them. And I believe that right now we're starting to see the holes. They need more toughness. They need more individual defensive toughness. And off the bench, they need an absolute bruiser. That's something I hope that they get figured out this offseason.
Yeah, and because I've seen a lot of people saying, like, Sasser, put him over Killian in the starting lineup right now. But another guy that's getting some of that love too is Jaden Ivey. I know he scored 12 points last night. I believe it was like 20 minutes they had on the court. But I didn't really get to see his performance really. So how did he play? And then, because my question, I see Javin, his father. He's been kind of not outspoken by any means, but he's been making it known that, like, Jaden needs to be starting. Like, Jaden is a top 5 player on this team. So what do you see Ivy at any point getting inserted to the starting lineup, or do you think even when, like, they get Bogey back, they get Monte back, they're still going to keep Ivy on the bench?
That's the thing. Like, I'm going to continue to say it. I wish he was starting. I believe he should be starting, at least with this iteration of the Pistons. When you start getting some of those other players back, Monty Williams' philosophy is to mix in a little bit of the vets with the young players. And I think that that's what's going on right now, and that's what he's gearing up towards right now, and getting Jaden Ivey comfortable with a role. When you look at his box score, I believe he played well. But when you look at the playmaking, when you look at the steals, when you look at those types of things that other players are bringing to the table, Jaden Ivey doesn't necessarily bring that to the table. I think that he's a good facilitator. We saw when they put the ball in his hands last year that he was absolutely able to go out there and get the assist numbers. This new bench role is something he's going to have to figure out. But again, I personally would start him. I thought that he brought a certain energy as soon as he came into the game. He brings a certain hustle. We saw him diving on the floor. We saw him going after rebounds. He had 7 of those last night. So Jaden Ivey, he's not doing, in my opinion, really anything wrong to warrant being on the bench. But I happen to believe that it's more of a fit thing for this squad when Monty Williams believes that he has his full roster there and able to just kind of run with those guys.
So what do you think he needs to do? Because it sounds like when I'm watching Jaden Ivey, it almost seems like not panicking, but he's going a little too fast, and that's where it's running him into trouble. So maybe that's my opinion, but obviously I'm not the biggest basketball knower in the world here. What does Ivey need to do to kind of clean up until Monty's comfortable with putting him in the starting lineup, in your opinion?
Well, that's what I think is going on now. That's what I do. You know, when they drafted him and they got a chance to see him out there on the court, the first thing that came from the front office, the first thing that Dwayne Casey spoke of is that he looks like a guy that's going 115 and a 70. Yeah. And that does get him into trouble sometimes. Sometimes he can overshoot the play and miss the proper read. And so, you know, Monty Williams spoke to the fact that his guys that he knows this team is going to have to depend on, that they developed some bad habits last year, being able to just play through that stuff, both Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, and that he wants to see Jaden Ivey become more or less the player that he knows he can be. At the training camps, at the practices, I'm telling you guys, I see Jarrett Jack, I see Monty Williams, I see these guys giving Jaden Ivey personal time, coaching him up. And based on what Jaden Ivey is saying, he's trying to make sure that he meets those marks, and he's doing it with a very, very mature demeanor. Very mature demeanor, and that I got to give him props because it's not easy.
Yeah, that would be tough because what was he, the 5th pick?
Yeah,
6th pick, and then
yeah.
Starting last year, and it's like he had a very solid rookie season, and then response to that, all right, now you're going to be your 6-man role. I mean, that's not easy, but Flannel?
No, it most certainly is not easy. And before we cut it with the Pistons talk, I got to ask about the guy, Cade Cunningham. How would you grade his performance 6 games into this season, coming back from that injury?
I would give him a solid B.
Nice.
Obviously, we want to see the turnovers kind of turn down a little bit. There are nuances to his turnovers. Some of it is on him. Some of it is on the makeup of the team right now. And some of it is just on him getting reacclimated to the NBA game. He just played game 82 in his career last night.
That's wild to think about.
That is very wild.
And that's what I'm saying. This team is so young. We're expecting them to be a ready-made, kind of more mature product, and none of these guys are on their second contract except for Isaiah Stewart. That's it. All of these guys are still young and they're still learning, and Troy Weaver saying, I got the cap space, I'm just figuring out what we need to put around them, and that's what this season is supposed to be about. But with Cade, a solid B to this year. His scoring, I'm comfortable with. He's always going to be one of those high-volume shooters who shoots around 45%, who's going to shoot over 50% or over 40% from 3 as long as they're putting him in those catch-and-shoot positions. And ultimately, he's the guy. You see defenses,
there's no doubt about that.
Double-teaming him, triple-teaming him, quadruple-teaming him. He's going to have to learn how to play through that.
Yeah,
oh, definitely.
Yeah, no, I would probably agree with you on that B assessment. I think he's obviously had some turnovers and some shooting inefficiencies, but sometimes it feels like there's so many shooters that have been out, like Boyan and Monty Morris and Alec Burks missed a game. It's hard. He's got a hard job right now, so I'm giving him mostly a pass for even some of his, I would say, shortcomings, because for the most part, it's been very, very good. So I like the grade of B. I would agree with you 100%. Thank you, Kool-Aid, for being our Pistons insider
and for being the hardcore.
Oh, the B-ball knower 1,000%.
Look, I'll just implore people, look at this season with the eyes of assessment. Look at this season for what needs to get better, what needs to improve, what they need to put around these guys. Next season is that season where you bring your ultra-critical eyes, where you want this team to hit the ground running and to actually be winning these games that we see them losing right now.
Yep. No, and if Kool-Aid says it, it is probably true, and I agree with him to some extent. Coming up, we are going to talk a little Lions, even though they're on a bye week. There are still some things. There are still some really, really good Lions topics that I think you are going to like, and we are going to get into. But first, I have to tell you about Dispo. Experience Dispo Romeo, a team that curates an exclusive atmosphere mixed with fresh inventory from Michigan's largest variety of products. The first ever cannabis mall of its kind is conveniently located off of Van Dyke and 32 Mile Road back in Romeo's. Dispo Romeo is now open late night until midnight every day except Sunday. Can it get any better than that? Dispo Dispensary, disposhops.com, your local cannabis plug.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy?
It's Planet Fitness.
Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime. Deal ends Wednesday, September 13th.
Join now at any Metro Detroit location. Hurry, offer ends soon.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
When buying or selling real estate, flexibility and control over the sales process is key. Sellers, how would you like the freedom of canceling your listing agreement at any time for any reason with no penalty? That is exactly what Mark White & Associates offers. It's called the Minute-by-Minute Listing Agreement by Mark White & Associates. Try Mark White's risk-free minute-to-minute listing agreement today. Looking to buy or sell real estate? Visit markwhitesells.com or call 248-290-8242. markwhitesells.com, where flexibility meets success. Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show.
It's Friday,
live
baby.
On the Woodward Sports Network. It is Friday, so we're just having some fun. We got
Sun's
Lukas,
out?
Yes, sun's out. Guns are not quite out, but you know.
Too cold for that.
They're in there.
Too cold for
They're
that.
in there. They are in there
Fuck
somewhere.
that.
They are loading. They are most certainly loading. We got Lukas Klotz on the desk, as you can see. He's as big of a part of the show as ever. I will want nobody here if it wasn't Jeff Iafrate, but
Thank you,
Lukas
Flannel.
Klotz.
Thank you,
Of course,
Flannel.
and we got JV Smooth in the TD booth and Detroit Kool-Aid playing double duty basically today, being the Pistons insider and doing a great job in the sound booth, of course. So this Lions season has obviously, in most ways, I would say almost every way, been a rousing success. They are 6-2. They are leading the NFC North. They have I would say their path is definitely there for them to maybe even get the #1 seed in the NFC, which would be
It's more likely
imperative.
than any other NFC team.
That is 100% true, and we talked about it a lot yesterday. So far so good, 6-2, and now they're on a bye week, and their next game is at the Los Angeles Chargers. But in order to maintain their standing, in order to, I would say, get that #1 seed and fight for it, and at least be in the contention for like the 2 and the 3 seed, they have to keep winning. They have to, I would say, take advantage of the fact that they have a light schedule. But that is going to involve some players stepping up, whether it would be players that have already had good seasons, have been disappointments, maybe haven't got a ton of playing time. So Lukas Klotz, I'm going to start with you, and let's go with just the offensive side of the ball.
Offensive
I'm going
side?
to go around the room. Who needs to step up the most for the Lions in the second half?
Yeah, and I'm glad you made the point clear that this does not mean that these players have been playing
Sure.
poorly.
Yep.
Either they have been playing very well, we need them to stay at the same level just because they have been playing above their ceiling, or they've been playing well, but if they really want to, if this Detroit Lions team really wants to be taken seriously in the playoffs and getting that #1 seed, #2 seed, they need to elevate it just a little bit. On the offensive side of the ball, I think it's pretty easy. I know it's the generic answer, but Jared Goff. Jared Goff on the road, and I'm a Goff guy. Do not get me wrong. With that Baltimore game, it scared the living shit out of me for a second. I've calmed down. I've come back to reality and realized that every NFL team, they're bound to take a shitter. Look at Kansas City last week at Denver. Shout out Sam Flannel. But Jared Goff, he has all the tools around him to succeed. He's shown us time and time again that he can succeed. To me, if this team wants to be a 14-3, 13-4 team, obviously it falls on the whole 53-man roster, but if really it goes on the field general's hands. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have to be making these deep throws. I don't want him to change anything about the way he's playing as far as his style. I would just like him when we go into New Orleans, when we go into Dallas, when we go into Minnesota. Just keep playing the way that you have at home, because none of these games are going to be outdoors. They're going to be in a dome, on the road. That's where Jared Goff is most comfortable when it comes to being on the road. So if he continues to play at the level he is at, I think this team is bound bound for a number 1 seed if you look at the schedule that they have.
Well, that's I don't hate that answer at all, because Jared Goff, we all know, like as I said in the beginning, you can have had a really, really good year, which Jared Goff has, but he certainly needs to step up and play at the same level and not really have those bad games on tough road games, because that Baltimore game, it wasn't all his fault. It was a total team loss, but there were certainly some things where you're like, things that make you go, some of those throws did not look so great. They only scored 6 points, but the good news is they might not have to go on the road outside for a playoff game at all. But you can't necessarily bank on that. And it was Bob Johnson says, J-Mo for frick's sakes. We'll get to that a little bit later.
I feel like I wanted to go with J-Mo, but who needs to step up for this team to succeed? I don't think J-Mo's a need, especially when you bring in Donovan Peoples-Jones. Completely different type of skill sets. But what they do is very similar. Donovan Peoples-Jones, what does he do? He stretches the field. What does Jamison Williams do? Stretch the field. Now, Jamison Williams is more quick. He's got more burst in his step. But when it comes down to it, their roles are very similar to what they would do on the field. Now, you can put J-Mo in the slot, and he can do more things than Donovan Peoples-Jones. Like when they motioned him on the jet sweep, and I know it was a drop pass, but we saw J-Mo with that drop earlier on in the game against mind blanking. Who did we just play last week?
Am
I mind blanking right now?
No, the Raiders.
The fucking Raiders. When they played the Raiders, and J-Mo's motion, they hit him kind of on like that, not a fade route, but it was definitely just like an outward breaking route that down the sideline, and it hit him back shoulder. It was a good ball in my opinion. But that's the thing that I don't think you'd expect to see Donovan Peoples-Jones to do. So J-Mo, yes, I would like for him to step up and succeed, but I don't think it's an absolute need for this team because, and we'll get into it later when we do the grades, but this offense right now, it's impressive what they are doing, even without Jamison Williams not producing how most Lions fans would expect him to.
Yep, and we'll get to that more. The offense has still been very, very good. I want to get JB Smoove in on this one, and we're just going to go with offensive side of the ball. JB, which offensive player would you like to see step up for the Lions in the second half of the season?
In the second half of the season, if we can't go with J-Mo, because obviously that's the number one answer right there, and Lukas already took Jared Goff, I'm going to have to side with Jahmyr Gibbs on this one.
I like it.
I don't want the previous game against the Raiders just to be a one-off. I want this to steamroll and continue on to the next game and the next game and the next game. And he proves to everyone that, hey, I deserve to be picked where I was in the draft, and this shows it right here. Just continue on that streak because we see what he is capable of doing and what he's trying to do out there on that field. He's trying to wiggle his way through the line and then bust out to one of the sides and then just have that breakaway speed.
You'll see him bust. Did you guys, I'm sorry not to cut it off. Did you guys hear Kirk Herbstreit? How many times he said that on the game last night? Kirk Herbstreit, I was sitting there watching the game with Easy, and his commentary, man, it's a little wild. If you actually listen to all the breakdowns and stuff, I mean, he said, I don't know how many times he talked about the secondary. He's like, man, that guy just busted. He just bust. I'm like, dude, we need to relax on this word. It was excessive. It was excessive.
Yeah, no, that's I know exactly what you mean. It gets to the point where it's noticeable after a while, where you're like, okay, you can stop saying bust.
Yeah, it's like, bro, chill it out.
And you know what, JB, I don't hate that answer at all because when you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, what you're thinking that he can possibly do is piggyback off of that great game that he had against the Raiders, even that fourth quarter that he had against the Ravens, which obviously wasn't significant in terms of them winning the game, but you saw him get his first touchdown. You saw him get a lot of targets in the passing game, and then he just did it against the Raiders. Had, by my estimation, one of the best games any running back period has had all season, and maybe as the season goes along, he can get more consistent carries, even with David Montgomery being there. What I see with Jahmyr Gibbs is somebody who could, I've said it before, be the best running back in the NFL moving forward in the next couple or 3 years, and if him and David Montgomery are used properly together, this running game could go to another stratosphere. Detroit Kool-Aid. What is a Lions player you would like to see, a Lions offensive player you would like to see step up big in the second half of the season?
See, look, I was sitting here thinking Ben Johnson. Obviously, he's not a player.
That's fine.
If I had to pick a player, I would say Sam Laporta or Josh Reynolds because they've been Jared Goff's
I like Josh Reynolds.
Solid security blanket all season. And I believe that they are key to his success. But for me, it's got to be Ben Johnson as one of the staffers. When you look at that Ravens game, you hear his comments that he made after it. He said, you know what? We probably needed a different start to that game, and then we went away from our game plan, which then we shouldn't have done. Mm-hmm. We started to play catch-up, and he said it was a mess. He said in the future we will be better. I think that's the key to putting a lot of these offensive players in the right positions.
And that's the beautiful thing about games like that, where you can, especially early on in the season, I'm not happy that we went and got our ass kicked over in Baltimore. But that Baltimore game was much needed, especially when you look at the schedule that's in front of them. I know I said it 1,000 times already, but it's so crucial because you want to talk about people being frauds, and we talk about the Minnesota Vikings last year, like, oh, they were such a fraudulent team. Those games, in my opinion, keep you from being a fraudulent team because you know that, okay, we are human. You don't have this huge ego going into the postseason, and then the New York Giants coming to town, and it's a physical team that can smack you in your mouth if you go in there sleeping and you overlook them. And now, I think it would be really hard for this Lions team to get snuck up on, in my opinion, in any situation. I think now they respect every opponent more than they already did to begin with.
And that's all well and good. And the fact that it happened early on in the season, you got plenty of time to make adjustments, maybe make some moves, which the Lions didn't do as much as maybe we hoped, but still, that's all fine. That is 100% in the past. Silent has an interesting comment in the Woodward Sports chat. Johnson needs to step up his play calling in the red zone. Quit trying to get cute and run the football. There were a couple. I'll tell you what.
Spot on.
There were a couple of very questionable play calls in the red zone against the Raiders. I mean, they did only get 3 field goals to start the game, and we've all said it too that David Montgomery maybe being out had something to do with that. But I remember they had 2nd and 1, and it's just like run the damn football. And then they lost.
They tried doing that double pass.
My
God,
that was ridiculous.
I gotta fucking stand up, man. This chair driving me. Can't do it. We're standing. I'll make sure we stay in place, JB, so we don't gotta fiddle with the camera. But no, that was frustrating, and that's another reason why I love the Donovan Peoples-Jones signing, because Donovan Peoples-Jones, you want to talk about a guy in the red zone that you could just set, like, think about what Marvin Jones was supposed to be for this Lions team. And even when Marvin Jones was in his prime with the Lions, he was a deep threat that could block, and he was explosive on the outside. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones, and let's not forget, this man's 24 years old. He's 24 years old still. So he is going to be entering his prime. I don't think Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to be some continuous 1,000-yard receiver. But everything that Marvin Jones does, they're going to get the same exact thing with Donovan Peoples-Jones. So in the red zone, Donovan Peoples-Jones will be a factor too, whether it's in the running game or the passing game.
Yeah, and we will certainly see. And I don't even hate the whole Ben Johnson thing, because he is, I'd still say, the best offensive coordinator in the NFL, the best non-head coach offensive coordinator in the NFL. But there's things that he can improve, and he's certainly not perfect. I want to see. Here's Johnny in the Woodward Sports, the Woodward Sports chat.
Johnny.
Hey, shout out Johnny Carson, right? And shout out Jack Nicholson from The Shining. And this is a very, very good comment. It is a great movie. Thank you, JB. Laporta catching passes all over the field since day one. Where's J-Mo? It's funny that you mentioned Jameson Williams, because, of course, to the shock of absolutely no one, that is the guy that I need to step up for the Lions in the second half. Because it sounds like everybody has given guys who have done very well. I mean, Kool-Aid, you mentioned Josh Reynolds, Sam Laporta, Ben Johnson. JB, you mentioned Jahmyr Gibbs, who did break out. Lukas, you mentioned Jared Goff. But Jameson Williams, many things can be true about Jameson Williams. You know that I'm not as high on him as some. All right. And he has shown in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game that he can be a big part of winning a football game. He had that big 45-yard touchdown catch when they were up 10-6 to basically put the game out of reach. But every single snap that he's played the rest of the season, 75, 45, the rest of it he has acquired a whopping 26 receiving yards. That's 3 full games, and then 3 quarters and 14 minutes and 50 seconds of another quarter. Jameson Williams has given you 6 catches for 71 yards. At some point, even the most staunch JMO defenders need to stop just looking at him through rose-colored glasses. This is not acceptable for a number 12 overall pick. I'm not saying that he can't improve, but based off of what he has already done, this is the second half where Jameson Williams really needs to take that leap, make a couple of other huge plays, maybe be a more consistent part of the pass-catching offense. Maybe when you get targets thrown your way, don't drop them. Even if it is a tough catch, you got to make those, like the one, that back shoulder wheel route against the Raiders. It wasn't an easy catch, but you have to make them at some point, because at some point I question whether Jared Goff trusts him enough to give him the targets that he gives Amon-Ra St. Brown, to give him the targets that he gives Josh Reynolds, and I don't even see Jameson Williams on the field as consistently as the others as well. I would like to see more from him, because I do think the Lions, in order to hit their ceiling, in order to become that Super Bowl team team this year, in order to become the number 1 seed in the NFC, you need a guy like Jameson Williams. You don't just draft him to make him basically Alvin Harper, but worse. Because now,
you and the fucking Alvin Harper talk.
Right now, guys, and a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I don't give a damn. He would be lucky to be Alvin Harper. He would be lucky to be Darius Hayward-Bay at this point.
Oh my God!
He's got to improve.
Hayward-Bay.
He has to improve. He's got to
God.
produce at some point, and I think that he can. But that's my point. He has to be better. Is that fair?
No,
am I out of line?
No, and that's. Are we saying for his sake or for the Lions' sake?
I would say for both. Because I do think the Lions need him in order to hit their ceiling. I mean, as I said before, he has shown that he is capable of making a huge play in a game that they win, which he did. At the time he made that big touchdown catch, even though the Lions, it seemed like, had complete control, it was a 10-6 game, and Jameson Williams and Jared Goff with that big connection made it 17-6. That was a huge play, but he hasn't made those type of plays in any other game. I'm not saying he has to do that every game, but he has to contribute.
And what you're saying is not false. I'm not saying that's false, but in my opinion, I don't think the Lions, to win games right now, I don't think they necessarily need Jameson Williams to step up. Would it be nice? Absolutely. What you're saying is not wrong there. He does need to play better individually. He could use some more help from Jared Goff as well. I think there's mutual faults that you could put here. But I just think, like, the Lions, it's not that they don't need J-Mo whatsoever, but in order to win games, this is a very balanced offense. This is an offense that can kill you by 1,000 slices. And if J-Mo's not involved in it, I still think they have a good chance to win any game they're involved with.
But is it fair for them to me give the snarky comment of good thing you drafted him at number 12 overall if you don't need him?
I mean, it's as of right now, it's a valid comment. But
Okay.
I think it's still a bright future for Jameson Williams. I think we would feel much more panic around the organization if the Detroit Lions didn't truly believe in him. If that makes sense. I think they're still looking at him as a long-term investment that's going to pay off.
All right, and that is, you know what, that is, I hope that that's the case, and I hope that Jameson Williams can shut me up for all of eternity, because if you guys remember, when he had that game against Tampa Bay, I gave him nothing but praise, and I said,
this is true.
My first thing that I said after that game was, I have now earned the right to shut the fuck up. But lately, he has kind of, the questions are still there with him, and that is fair. That is 100% fair. And coming up next, we've got some more players we have to discuss that need to step up on the defensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. Man, I'm glad that we can really stretch this into a couple of segments, because it's a fun exercise. It really is, because when the Lions are on a bye week, you gotta think of ways in which they can improve. But first, I have to tell you about a defense that never lets you down, and that is Guardian Alarm. Let Guardian Alarm offer you customized solutions from real experts. Our professional technicians take the time to recommend security and automation solutions specific to your needs. 24/7 professional monitoring. Call us anytime, day or night, and know that a Guardian team member will stay on the phone as long as needed. Technology backed by people. Your safety and security deserves technology that's been proven to work and people who have been proven to care. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT. That's 1-800-STAY-OUT. Guardian Alarm, your local security experts.
By now you know me, Christina Gennari, as the obvious choice in real estate. And you know my website, soldchristina.com, as your #1 resource for buying or selling your home. Myself, along with my amazing staff, pride ourselves on making your home buying and selling experience a relaxing and easy one. Come see why we are the obvious choice. Christina Gennari at soldchristina.com, the obvious choice in real estate.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions Show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
All right, let me tell you guys where you can get your meats. Fairway Packing Company. For over 60 years, Fairway Packing has provided Michigan's finest restaurants, hotels, and casinos with prime beef, Wagyu beef, and dry-aged beef. Experience the Fairway difference for yourself today. Visit the steak shop in Grosse Pointe Woods for grab-and-go steaks. Order online at fairwaypackingco.com. Woodward.com. Get your meats.
Yes, off and running on the Morning Woodward Show, live on the Woodward Sports Network.
On a beautiful Friday.
On a beautiful Friday. The sun is out. We got JB and Kool-Aid, and we got Lukas Klotz filling in for Jeff Iafrate. Jeff Iafrate will be back on Tuesday, but in his absence, there's nobody I would rather have on the desk than one Lukas Klotz. It's been a lot of fun so far. We've been talking about offensive players that need to step up moving forward for the Lions in order for them to maintain their record, their standing in the NFC, which I think we all will, but it's going to require a big effort from the Lions down the stretch in these last 9 games. We talked about offensive players that need to step up, so now we are going to go to the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to start with you, Lukas Klotz. Which defensive player on the Lions needs to step up the most in the second half of the season?
There was a couple ways that I wanted to approach this. Did I want to go Aiden Hutchinson? Yes. But then again, I think for him to step up, I think a lot of players on the defensive line have to step up as well, just because it can't be a one-man army down there in the trenches. I know we see Max Crosby out in Vegas basically doing it every week, but we can't expect Aiden Hutchinson in year 2 to be Max Crosby right now. I don't think that's fair. I think they're two different types of players, and just their situations are completely different. One player that has been playing well, again, this is not saying that this player has not been playing well, but one that needs to continue to step up is Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton right now is holding down that secondary at the cornerback position, and if you look at the game that the Lions have, they have the Chargers. He's going to have to go up against Keenan Allen. The Packers, you can say what you want about their offense, but Christian Watson, he can take a 5-yard slant route to the house at any point. Then you go to the Bears, they got DJ Moore. The Vikings, I don't believe Justin Jefferson's going to be back this season, but even Justin Jefferson's not. Jordan Addison. The Vikings again, so you got Jordan Addison. The Bears again, DJ Moore. You go down to the Saints, Chris Olave or Michael Thomas. The Broncos, Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton. And finally the Cowboys with CeeDee Lamb. That Cowboys game, Cam Sutton, in my opinion, he's going to be the player that has to step up the most, because if you shut down CeeDee Lamb, you have a great run defense. And if you shut down all these number 1 wide receivers, I think this team's in a great spot defensively. So if Cam Sutton, and I know he looked a couple of times like burnt toast against Davante Adams, but that's what happens when you go man-to-man against Davante Adams. Davante Adams would do that to any NFL cornerback. So I'm not going to, yes, it was scary seeing Cam Sutton get burnt like that, but it's Davante Adams. It's just what he does. It's going to happen eventually. So if Cam Sutton steps up like he has been this whole game or this whole season, I like to see him get a couple turnovers, but I'm not going to be mad at him if it's not, because if he's not getting turnovers, it's most likely not being thrown to his side. So he's doing his job regardless. If he keeps stepping up against the receivers going up in this schedule, the Lions are going to be in a really good spot defensively.
You know, that's a great point, because Cam Sutton has obviously been one of the bright spots. And we look at the Lions' schedule moving forward as, it's a little bit light, but there's still some wide receivers who you mentioned, like DJ Moore, for example, Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison, and, Chris Olave, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Thomas. That is a great point, because every team has talented players, and I would say the secondary is a position group on the Lions that there's still some question marks, but there's going to be a lot less question marks if Cam Sutton continues to play like a cornerback 1, which for the most part he has done this season. Credit to Cam Sutton. JB Smoove, who is the player on the Detroit Lions on the defensive side of the ball that needs to step up the most for them in the second half of the season?
All right, so we had a discussion about this on Heavyweights last night. Shout out to Easy. I see him in the chat here. Shout out to the Heavyweights as well, too. You can catch him at Dispo live later tonight at Hazel Park. Come through if you can. But and I don't want to put too much disrespect on this guy, but it's just I feel like we expected a lot more from him, and that is one Jack Campbell.
Now, I like that.
That's
JB.
a great one.
I
Keep
like
going.
that one.
Yeah, we expected a lot more from him, especially in the position he was picked in the first round, 18th overall pick. I just feel like he's just getting overshadowed by Alex Anzalone, and that's no disrespect to him as well too, because he is balling out. He's doing his job out there that he needs to be. But it's just like Jack Campbell is a guy that everyone seems to be rooting for, but he just goes unnoticed out there on the field and in the stat sheets as well. He's doing great things as it is right now, 21 solo tackles as it is, but still it's just like he just seems to be a guy out there, and we don't want him to be just a guy out there. You want him to be that guy out there to improve this defense and be the captain, but it's just not happening. So I would love to see him just step up and take on some more roles and more responsibilities out there.
You know what? I think that's a very, very good answer, because when you look at the rookies, their first 4 draft picks, their first round of their second round draft picks, we obviously, Sam Laporta, amazing. Brian Branch, amazing. Jahmyr Gibbs started off a little bit slow, but especially in that last game, you see somebody who can be that number 12 overall pick running back. But with Jack Campbell, I think there are definitely still some question marks. He's made some plays, but his consistency consistency, his impact it hasn't been what I thought he would be, one of the most NFL-ready players as a rookie out of anyone in this draft. And so far, his reviews, I would say, have been mixed. Not all bad, by the way. Kool-Aid, who is the player on the Detroit Lions defense that you would like to see step up the most in the second half of the season?
Listen, with him making his return, I want to see James Houston hit the
great
ground
answer.
running, man. That's what I want to see. I believe he can be that player if he's healthy that can help to free up Aiden Hutchinson just a little bit more. His speed and his ability to just get off the line of scrimmage and get into the backfield is awesome. We posted that video to socials. Shout out to our social team, Lukas Booner, and we got a new guy, Jack, as well. Where he had a sack on Justin Fields just because he bull rushed the guy that was trying to block him right into Justin Fields. Well, it's just like, I love it, man. He's absolutely somebody I think can blow up the other team's offense right off the line of scrimmage, man. James Houston. Let's get it.
James Houston is a great one. I see a lot of James Houston in the chat. I think it was Mark Royal who said that Cam Sutton has been the best defensive player for the Lions this year. I wouldn't go that far, but he's been very good.
He's top 3 for sure.
No, 100%. I don't hate that. I see Christian Vieira, I believe is how you pronounce your name. I haven't seen you in the Woodward Sports chat before. Welcome. Need Brian Branch to step up again like he did earlier in the season. And you know what? I don't think that's necessarily unfair, because at the beginning of the year, especially with that pick 6, especially with that game against Atlanta, you're thinking, oh my goodness, this could be a guy who could compete for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think that ship has, for the most part, sailed. Injuries have a lot to do with it, but I think he stepped up and played big against the Raiders. But Brian Branch, I don't necessarily hate it. I see some Aaron Glenn chatter in the Woodward Sports chat. I don't necessarily. I think that's. I can't hate it. I'm not saying he's been bad. I'm just saying that we're talking about stepping up.
Yeah, you can't hate it, but you can't love it either. I think Aaron Glenn has been... I know people were jumping on him after the Seattle game, I included, because just the scheme that they were doing, having the corners 8-9 yards off. But Aaron Glenn, you look at how this defense is compared to the rest of the league, and then you actually break down the defense and the talent compared to it. Aaron Glenn is doing a phenomenal job. Yeah. Can he step up? Absolutely. But I don't think he's the guy that has to. If he keeps coaching how he is, I think this defense will be just fine in a very good spot.
Yeah, no, I would say that Aaron Glenn has been, I wouldn't say the least of the Lions' problems, but everybody could step up and everybody could get a little bit better, because to be fair, the performances against the Ravens and against the Seahawks, it left some to be desired. I mean, they gave up 37, although 6 of them was from a pick 6, and then 38 to the Seahawks, and then 38 to the Ravens. So my answer for this one, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what Kool-Aid was saying, but I'm going to be a little bit less specific. I'm going to cheat a tad. I am going to say an edge rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson, whether it be Charles Harris, whether it be one of the Aquaras, whether it be John Kaminsky, whether it would be a return from injury from James Houston, so that maybe he could be at least somewhat of a facsimile of what he was last year. We don't know, because he had such a historic rookie season last year, but still somebody opposite of Hutch, because Julian Okwara has 2, John Kaminsky has 1, and Charles Harris has 1.5, and all of those guys have either missed games like Julian Okwara, or I believe Charles Harris was a healthy scratch. John Kaminsky has been a little bit disappointing, but I will say this, and this is something that I think has been a little bit too prevalent on other shows and maybe in Lions discourse lately. I feel like people are kind of turning on Aiden Hutchinson, and I don't like it.
Yeah, because I see in the comments, it's like, we need Hutch to step up. I understand that you want Aiden Hutchinson to play better, but at the end of the day, the man is like, when you are game planning for the Detroit Lions, the number one person you're stopping first is Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson has the ability to wreck any game that he pleases, but he's getting doubled and triple teamed even sometimes. And I don't see a way for Aiden Hutchinson to step up his game if the others don't around him as well. I think he can play better 100%, but it's really hard for him in the role that he is, and the fact that he is just being the number one person that's getting shut down on the defensive side of the ball. Like, I know he's the number 2 pick, and we see Kayvon Thibodeau 8.5 sacks over in New York. Detroit Lions don't have a Dexter Lawrence, and I'm not saying that they need to. I know the trade deadline passed. We didn't get anybody. So this is the squad that we have, and I'm happy with it. But you need Aiden Hutchinson to get more help if you want to see that true step up, in my opinion.
Well, good.
And I'm not saying he's not going to have a 10-sack season, an 11-sack season. I think Aiden Hutchinson can still finish with 11, 12 sacks. But for him to step up, first, I think the others need to your point.
Yes, and Speak Easy Sports, Easy in the chat, I give him a lot of credit. He said, I had to defend Hutch yesterday. Yes, I was watching the heavyweights at the time, and I thought Spencer Raxter, for example, was way too harsh on him. He gave Aiden Hutchinson a B- for this season. I'm like,
what else do you want him to do? What else can Aiden Hutchinson do?
And that's all well and good. I have a lot of respect for Spencer and his opinions. He's very, very smart. But I think that this emphasis, and don't get me wrong, both things can be true. I predicted Aiden Hutchinson would have 15 sacks this year, and I'm going to have to probably be on the stand and say he won't get to that amount. But this idea that Aiden Hutchinson has been anything other than exemplary and the best player on this defense, I think is just, people are really treating pressures now for some reason like they don't matter at all. Well, I have to ask you this question. Every single one of you in this room, probably in the Woodward Sports chat, would say that Aiden Hutchinson dominated the Kansas City game. Was it because of sacks or was it because of pressures?
Because of pressures.
It was 100%
he did not have a sack.
He did not have a sack. And when you look at, and every single person in this room too, and I would say I'm generalizing a little bit, but we would all agree that Max Crosby, we're all just like, oh my goodness, what a dog.
Before you get...
Okay, go ahead.
I want to make this point very clear.
Yes.
This is not saying that Aiden Hutchinson is... I love Aiden Hutchinson. This guy's going to be a future All-Pro, but Aiden Hutchinson is not as good as Max Crosby, and that is okay. Max Crosby right now is a top 3 edge rusher. He does not have any help, just like Aiden Hutchinson does. That's fine. I get you. But he is not as good as Max Crosby. Max Crosby is a fucking freak. He's a specimen off the edge. I don't think it's fair to Aiden Hutchinson in his second year to want him to be producing how Max Crosby is right now. I don't see how. I don't think it's fair. I just don't see it. I understand that they're comparable as far as they're probably the only 2 defensive ends in the NFL that don't have another guy on the line with them. But we can't just be like, oh, Max Crosby, we see him. Hutch, you need him too. Hutch will be that one day, even if he doesn't have help. Hutch will be at that caliber eventually. But it's just not right now. Max Crosby has been in the league longer, and he has more motivation. He just got a bag, and he's trying to prove himself a lot more than Aiden Hutchinson is right now because he needs to show that he's a leader. I'm worth this contract that you just bought me. And his game is just completely defined. There's still things that Aiden Hutchinson can do to clean up. Max Crosby, he's a completely polished defensive end right now.
Well, and I was actually going to mention Max Crosby because I found some interesting numbers when it comes to Max Crosby versus Aiden Hutchinson. Max Crosby's a better player, and I think that everybody would agree that Max Crosby is a dog. He's a beast, and now people are having some questions about Aiden Hutchinson, which I think is just completely short-sighted. Max Crosby has 6.5 sacks on the season. Aiden Hutchinson has 4.5. There's a 2-sack difference. It's not like Max Crosby has put up eye-popping sack numbers or anything like that. It's because of impact. Max Crosby has 47 pressures. Aiden Hutchinson has 46. That's just one less, and they both played 8 games. They both have 10 quarterback hits. Max Crosby is the 3rd highest PFF graded edge rusher at 91.6. Aiden Hutchinson is the 8th highest PFF grader at 90. I'm just saying that Aiden Hutchinson and Max Crosby are not even that far apart when it comes to numbers, and people are already trying to question Hutch like, oh, he needs to step up more. Oh, he doesn't have enough sacks. Oh, pressures are just some silly stat. I just don't understand how the narrative has switched so fast. And furthermore, Aiden Hutchinson has 46 pressures. Daniil Hunter leads the NFL in sacks. Do you know how many he has?
How many is that?
34. TJ Watt, 32. Josh Allen, 39. Hassan Reddick, 28. Nick Bosa, 44. So Aiden Hutchinson has consistently gotten to the quarterback. He just hasn't always been able to finish the job. And for the most part this season, this defense has played well. So
more than well, they've been. It's as far as compared to the other. This is an elite defense compared to the other defenses in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Maybe not on paper talent-wise, but as far as the production that they're getting out of their players, this has been an elite defense so far this season.
Sure, and I'm not saying that all of you are making these comments. I see a lot of people in the chat who are actually supporting Aiden Hutchinson, and I really appreciate that because I think we need to appreciate more of what he's done, and I think the sacks are going to come as the season goes on. I mean, the man is on pace for over 100 quarterback pressures. The man has 1 less pressure and the same amount of quarterback hits as Max Crosby. And Max Crosby is talked about as potentially a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. And I don't think he's going to win it because of the lack of sacks, but still, Max Crosby should be a legitimate Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and Aiden Hutchinson is putting up similar numbers.
It's almost like they're very similar, but Max has a couple more things cleaned up, would you say?
Sure.
And it's almost like that comes with being in the NFL and experience. Like, I can't remember who said it. I'll go look real quick if I can find it, but they were saying that I feel like Aiden Hutchinson does a little too many spin moves, and that's a perfect example of things that Aiden Hutchinson can clean up to get him to that next level. But right now, Aiden Hutchinson, is he disappointed this season? Am I missing something?
Not even a little bit.
So, Hutch Hutch, Alex Anzalone, and Cam Sutton are the 3 guys on this defense, and I'll even throw Tracy Walker in there. I mean, I guess Tracy Walker's dropped a couple interceptions. You could get on him about that. But what are you going to say about them? Like, how much better can these guys play?
I would throw Aleem into that, too.
Aleem, too. I just think there's been a couple games where Aleem has kind of disappeared. Not saying he's not a factor and hasn't been out there, but when you look at, like, the Seattle game, where was Aleem?
You know what I mean? There's an APB.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Aleem's bad. I'm just saying I think Aleem you could still give a little bit of criticism, but at the same time, Aleem's still a very young player who's developing in this, not only in this league, but with this scheme as well, because he dropped so much weight. Like, he's developing as a player right now. So I don't think it'd be fair. Like, again, Aleem could step up, but it would not be fair for me to go and be like, Aleem, what the hell are you doing? Because did you see last week against the Raiders what he was doing?
Oh, he was great.
So,
no, he was absolutely phenomenal. The defense as a whole played great, but there's always room to improve, because I know this segment started with defensive players that need to step up, because despite the defensive improvement by the Lions, they still have had a couple of clunkers. Mm-hmm. They still have given up the season best games on the year to Geno Smith and Lamar Jackson. But for the most part, especially when they've gotten a chance to feast on inferior quarterbacks, they have done just that, and that is what good teams do. Speaking of the defense and the offense, we're going to give some overall grades on those units. We might even get to some of the coaches, GMs, all of that good stuff. You are not going to want to miss it. But Hutch and Aleem McNeil are pretty big boys, Lucas, would you say?
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you about some more Big Boy. Big Boy! Home of the burgers and chicken sandwiches, and they are taking over now over at Big Boy. Try the best cheeseburger, our new pretzel bacon cheeseburger. Craving chicken? We'll try the Dolly chicken sandwich, or turn up the heat with Bob's hot chicken sandwich. I probably can't eat that one because I have the whitest tongue alive. I can't eat spicy food, but upgrade your regular fries with a chili cheese or loaded baked potato fries, and make sure you save room for dessert. Indulge in Big Boy's Reese's chocolatey peanut butter thunder cake, or satisfy your sweet tooth with Big Boy's funnel cake fries. Make sure you check them out over at Big Boy.
Burgers and chicken sandwiches are taking over at Big Boy. Try our new pretzel bacon cheeseburger. Turn up the heat with Bob's hot chicken sandwich. Upgrade those regular fries with our chili cheese fries or loaded baked potato fries. Hit your sweet tooth with funnel cake fries or Reese's chocolate peanut butter thunder cake. Load up on all your favorites today at Big Boy.
Woodward Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Let's talk about Outdoor Equipment Company, official equipment provider of Woodward Sports. Michigan-grown, family-owned bad boy mowers, tractors, steel handhelds, and even weed whippers. Liberty trailers, Generac generators, Snow X-Plows, and Salters. Outdoor Equipment Company has it all. Buy it, rent it at 0% financing, delivery to your doorstep. You go to their website at outdoorequipco.com. Cruising into the second hour on the Morning Woodward Show on this beautiful Friday. As you can see, the sun is out, and it is absolutely beautiful. And we are talking Lions right now, which is one of the most fun things to talk about on the Woodward Sports Network. I would say the most fun. And since we're on a bye week, since we got some things we got to talk about, let's do a little bit of a grade on the Detroit Lions and some of their units. And I'm going to start with you, Lucas. What grade would you give the Lions offense overall this season so far?
Professor Klotz. In my opinion, after reviewing the Lions' first 8 games offensively, they get an A. I damn near wanted to give an A+. That Baltimore game kept it out of there for me. But I'm going to read off some teams for you right now.
All right.
Dallas Cowboys, Seattle Seahawks, Philadelphia Eagles, San Francisco 49ers, Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens, who I just mentioned, and your Kansas City Chiefs.
Not my Chiefs.
Do you know what they all have in common?
What do they have in common?
They have less total yards than the Detroit Lions in 8 games. Now, the Cowboys and Seahawks, They've all played one less game. They only played 7. Lions have played 8. They're both still 1,000 yards behind the Detroit Lions. And if you go and look at these offense on paper, before the season, if I would have told you that, I think you, especially when you go the 49ers, Bills, Eagles, Chiefs, even the Seahawks for that matter, because I think people were really high on the Seahawks offense, no one would have expected that. They're only behind the Miami Dolphins. For this team, I think that, especially when you factor in, I'll bring up some more names, Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Montgomery, Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker, Big V, Jonah Jackson, Jahmyr Gibbs. Those are 7 starters that have all been hurt throughout this season, and yet this offense is still doing that. I don't think there's any way that you could give this offense anything lower than a B. It's the number 2 offense in the fucking NFL, and they've had major injuries throughout the whole season. Through each stage, there's been an injury they've had to fight through.
Yeah, you know what? I would say I'm going to give it an A. I was thinking about maybe an A-, but I will give it an A for this reason. They are top 10 in every statistical offensive category. They're 8th in scoring, 8th in rushing offense. They're actually top 5, 5th in passing yards per game, and 2nd in yards per game, as you mentioned. This Lions offense, for the most part, has picked up right where it left off. I know that their ranking isn't quite as high as it was last year when it comes to scoring, but still, they have done exactly what they needed to do to win. Jared Goff has picked up right where he left off from last year, having a top 3 NFC quarterback caliber season, maybe even top 2, maybe even 1 when it's all said and done. We shall see. I mean, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have, even though they haven't played together on the field very, very much,
They're going to, though.
They are going to, and they have each had their moments. I mean, David Montgomery had a couple 100-yard games, and Jahmyr Gibbs had a 100-yard game against the Raiders. You look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's managed to step it up even more than he has before. He's on pace to have an all-pro caliber season, on pace for about 1,400 yards. And, of course, your guy Sam Laporta, who has come in and is having a he is having a historic rookie season. And, of course, that offensive line, no matter who's out, no matter how many holes you have to plug, it still has played very, very well, like one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. So, yes, for those reasons, I have to give the offense an A.
And especially like after last week's performance, I know it was against the Las Vegas Raiders, but the fact that you have 3 backup linemen in, Frank Ragnow being out, I can't explain to you, even in the passing game, how imperative that is. The fact they put up the yardage they did, and I know they could have put up more points. Like, it could have looked even more dominating. They had a pick 6 that lost some yards as well. So, dude, this offense, the fact that they just constantly have this next man up mentality, and it's almost like they don't skip a beat. Mm-hmm. It's impressive, man. It's definitely an A offense.
Absolutely. JB, what grade would you give the Lions offense thus far in the season?
Oh, it's got to be A. Like, there's no way you can go any less than an A for this team. I mean, the whole team is doing their best that they can out there and helping out as much as we can. I mean, Sam Laporta, this guy, his floor, is 3 catches and 30 yards? That's unreal.
Shoot, that's like even more than that. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like, that's unreal. All the rookies are at least showing out from what I've seen from my standpoint. And Jared Goff, I mean, we wouldn't care for the interceptions as much as that they have been, but still, he's doing his best out there that he can. And yes, J-Mo needs to step up, but Amon-Ra is just right there along with him, still making the best, even when sick, even when banged up, even when injured. Like, he's still going to be out there and probably getting you 100 yards, and at least not 100 yards, and he's getting you a touchdown. So this offense is an A for me. It has to be.
Absolutely. In 5 out of the 7 games Amon-Ra St. Brown has played, he has had over 100 yards. That is the model of consistency.
He's had either a touchdown or 100 yards in every game that he's played this season.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. Give that man an All-Pro. Detroit Kool-Aid, what grade would you give the offense for the Lions thus far this season?
The offense, I'll give it a B+.
Okay.
A B+. I want to see a little bit more, but I think that by the season's end, it's going to be a solid A. I really do.
No, that is 100% fair, because their offense hasn't been perfect. They have had some games where they haven't put up as many points as you would like, particularly the Ravens game, but still, overall, everybody here has them at either an A or a B+, and I think that is very, very well deserved. How about the defense, Lucas? What grade would you give the defense thus far in the season for the Lions?
The defense, I know I just gave the Lions offense an A, and the Lions defense is pretty much top 10. I would say is both, if you combine the on paper and production, I'm going to give them a top 10 defense. I don't know really how it ranks out statistically, but I'm going to just give them a B. It's a B, because I feel like at some points they're almost lights out, but then there's even quarters or games where it's like, what is this defense that I'm watching right now? Not saying that they're completely pathetic, but it's not the defense that you saw the quarter prior, the game prior. I think they're lacking some consistency, but some of the players that they've been on that defense have been stepping up so. I wanted to do a B-, I really did. But like when you look at Alex Anzalone, he has shut up so many people. Cam Sutton, he has made himself a household name with Detroit fans. Tracy Walker, stepping up in big ways. Aiden Hutchinson, doing Aiden Hutchinson things out there. Aleem McNeil, who we were just kind of talking about, he stepped up to kind. The amount of pressures that this defense is applying, and the teams that they have beaten, they've beaten the Chiefs. You got to give them credit for that. I get the Seahawks, tough loss. Beating the Atlanta Falcons, that run game is dominant. The Packers, they completely expose them. The Raiders, they completely expose them. When they're playing a team that is under them, this defense has completely exposed them and shut them out and look like a clear different level team. So that's why I'm gonna give them a B+. I'll give them a B. My fault.
That is a very good answer, Lucas. JB, the Lions defense, what would you grade them thus far this season?
I kind of have to agree with Lucas. I got to give them a B. I can't go as high as a B+, and I can't go as low as a B-, but they've definitely been solid. There's some inconsistencies, as you guys said, as you guys spoke about, but still, you're proud of the product that is out there. At times, Aaron Glenn kind of misses a step and doesn't, get the proper players in place that he needs to. But everyone on this team is solid. Alex Anzalone, Tracy Walker, he stepped up in a big opportunity that he's been given right now, even though when he wasn't starting, but still, he's doing his thing. Brian Branch, you can't say enough about this guy. Aleem McNeil, he slimmed down himself. He's bettered himself to be out here to support this team. So no matter who you rotate in and out of this lineup, they're all going to step up and be great. So I got to give him a B.
I like it, JB. Kool-Aid, what would be your grade for the Detroit Lions defense thus far this season?
Yeah, I would give them a B. I was sitting here saying, should it be a B-, but I believe that they have shown great resilience. Despite there being a couple lapses in game plan judgment, I feel like they've shown resilience through injuries. We've seen this defense and this team absolutely get decimated and their season go to the crapper when they've lost the level of defensive players that we've seen them lose this year. We know that what we saw out of Brian Branch. We know what we expected out of CJ GJ. When we signed him as coming in leading the NFL in interceptions, we didn't fathom this team realistically saying, oh, they're going to keep up this type of defensive performance and still win. When he got hurt and we lost that Seattle game, you guys remember how the Detroit Lions fans were.
Yep.
So I was like, you know what? I can't give him a B-. I got to edge it up just a little bit to a B. So, yeah.
No, that's, you know what? I think we're all pretty much in agreement that it is somewhere in the B range. I am actually going to give it a B+. And here's why. Here's why. I'm actually going to give it a higher grade than everybody else. Yes.
Flannel being the optimistic one out of everybody here.
Here's the reality. They did have a couple of poor performances against the Seahawks where they let Geno Smith basically pick them apart, although the offensive turnovers hurt them a lot as well. And then the Ravens game in which I've never seen Lamar Jackson look better in my life. And he did it against the Lions. Those are definitely, I would say, black marks on the legacy of this defense thus far this season. But other than that, the Lions defense has been 100% exemplary. They are second, I repeat, second in the NFL in rush defense, which is something that none of us in a million years could have ever fathomed at this point this year.
I think we were all more optimistic, especially coming into the season with all the secondary additions, about the secondary compared to the run defense.
Absolutely. And just by the numbers, I don't know if they're going to be able to sustain it the whole year, but we keep saying that, and yet they keep not giving up a lot of rushing yards. They are second in rush defense, and they are seventh in yards allowed per game, which also top 10 in yards allowed per game this year. We would have actually probably taken something even less than that.
Yeah.
And in two of the games, they gave up only 6 points to the Falcons and 6 points to the Buccaneers. I'm not saying that those are the two best offenses in the world, but those offenses both have some talent. You look at Bijan Robinson, you look at Tyler Algier, you look at Drake London. For the Buccaneers, you look at Mike Evans, you look at Chris Godwin. Shutting down those offenses and allowing them to only 6 points is an accomplishment, and this defense has done that. And because of that, because of the fact that they're top 10 in a couple of statistical categories, particularly rushing yards allowed per game, that is why that pumps them from a B to a B+, even though they had a couple of clunkers, which every team is going to have from time to time.
And let me ask you this, and we can go around the room again. If you had to pick an MVP for this defense right now, who do you think it would be if you had to pick one?
Aiden Hutchinson.
Go with Hutch?
I'm gonna go with Aiden Hutchinson. He has still played. I mean, he has still played very, very well. Right up there when it comes to pressures. I mean, the sack numbers I think are a little bit misleading because you even look at San Francisco. Nick Bosa has 3, but he's still having an exemplary season.
Yeah,
it's not all about sacks.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Because people are like, "What's happening to Nick Bosa?" He's Nick Bosa.
He's Nick Bosa.
They saw a need on defense that they needed to do in order to free up Nick Bosa, and that's go get another edge rusher. That's exactly what they did with Chase Young and Randy Gregory. So Nick Bosa. Like people that are like bashing Nick Bosa right now, it's just the same exact situation to Hutch, to your point.
Yes. JB, defensive MVP?
As of right now, I probably got to go with Aleem McNeil. I mean, he's stepped up. He's right there with Aiden along with sacks at 4, while Aiden has 4.5. I mean, he's on Aiden's ass to have more sacks this year. So, hey, the man looks tough. So, give me Aleem McNeil on this one.
I like it.
Aleem McNeil, defensive MVP.
Kool-Aid, defensive MVP for the team thus far this year?
You know, I was sitting here thinking about Aiden Hutchinson because of the pressures and what he does. All the things that, you know, whether he gets the sack or not, he's still affecting everything. But I got to give Alex Anzalone some love, man.
I like it.
Give him the flowers. Give him the flowers.
He's a guy who not only battles what the fans think about him, but he's out there battling on the field, which ultimately matters and changes what the fans will think. And he's been all over the field. I got to give him his flowers, man.
Honestly, man, Alex Anzalone has went from being somebody that we all wanted out of town. I'm not going to say we all. I'm generalizing a little bit too much, but he wasn't exactly a fan favorite to one of the fan favorites.
Yeah, like when he re-signed, I think everybody was like,
yeah.
Oh, so we're not going after a linebacker. And everybody just kind of gave that shocked look. But it paid off. If I had to pick my defensive MVP, and you guys all, I wanted to go Anzalone, I wanted to go Hutch, but then when I thought about it more, what's the question that Lions fans, like, they don't even want to hear, that just makes them terrified? What if Cam Sutton gets hurt?
Oh, yeah.
If Cam Sutton gets hurt, this defense is completely exposed. I think we're taking that for granted sometimes with how important he is and how well of a job he has done. Because I was getting some pushback from the chat earlier when I was like, Cam Sutton needs to step up. And that's not saying that he's been doing bad. He's been doing a phenomenal job. And that's why right now I think cornerback is the hardest position to play outside of quarterback in the NFL. I think physically, when you're talking about physically, it's the hardest position to play. Quarterback, obviously, a lot more mentally difficult. You have so much on your plate. But Cam Sutton, he's been holding it down, and he's, I think, if not Hutch and Anzalone, it's got to be Cam Sutton for this defensive MVP, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, think about this. This Lions defense has been able to withstand a lot of injuries to their secondary, in part because, and a big reason because, Cam Sutton has played like a cornerback 1 for most of the year, and that's what they needed from him, especially with having Emmanuel Mosley be basically out this whole year again. Very, very disappointing, but Cam Sutton has stepped up.
And I got one other thing, and this is why I said it when we were talking about Cam Sutton stepping up. Elgato in the chat, very, very valued member of the chat. He says Sutton left Devontae Adams wide open twice. Yes, that is what happens when you play man coverage, what the Detroit Lions do, and I'm very happy that they do, against Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams getting off the line of scrimmage against press coverage, against his regular off-man coverage, he is going to expose whoever is covering him at some point during the game. If Jimmy Garoppolo can throw a ball, then yes, he's going to get that and score. But that the fact of the matter isn't. It was an incomplete pass. Cam Sutton did his job. They limited Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams last Monday, and that is all you can ask him to do. The Devontae Adams was limited. Did Cam Sutton have a role in that? Yes. Okay, give him the credit then.
Hey, preach. I would agree with you on that one 100%. And coming up next, we're going to grade some people that I'm sure you are very excited to grade. The Lions head coach Dan Campbell and GM Brad Holmes. But first, I have to tell you about Swiss Insurance. Do you have football on the brain? Of course you do. Shout out JB. Fall ushers in college and professional football, and this year has been awesome. Fall is also a perfect time to shop your home and auto insurance. Shop it like a pro with Swiss Insurance. They cover Woodward Sports Network, and they should be covering you too. Ask for Mark at Swiss Insurance today at swissins.com or call 248-800-4177. Again, that is 248-800-4177, Swiss Insurance.
Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Gabby is a college student struggling to study for her big exam. Then she discovered Syntron, a healthy way for her to stay awake and focus. Jennifer frequently has chaotic days like this until she gets online, orders some Syntron, and finds her groove. April visited her local grocery store, purchased a case of Syntron, and entered to win the Syntron 100K Vegas giveaway. Pick up your case of Syntron today at any Meijer location or visit drinksyntron.com/Vegas and enter for the 100K Vegas giveaway.
Glorious. Just in time for football season, Glorious Cannabis is dropping a new ice water bubble hash infused pre-roll called Honolulu Blue. Thank you, Kool-Aid. I appreciate that. It smells so good. It's like the whiff of the first playoff win in 31 years. It's a gassy, aggressive strain named in honor of our Detroit football team. If you haven't had one of these ice water pre-rolls, you are definitely missing out. It is so smooth. Find them at a Dispo dispensary near you for 25% off. Use code word Woodward Cannabis, or check them out online today at gloriouscanna.com. Once again, Glorious Cannabis, baby.
Ooh, I like that. You know what I'm happy about when it comes to grading the team and units of the units, like offense and defense. These grades are really, really high, and you know what that means? The Lions are a damn good football team. They are 6-2, and they have a fast track to, at absolute worst, win the division and probably get the 3 seed. So there's going to be a lot of high grades being
higher
given
than that
out.
3 seed, Sam Flannel.
Hey, you know what? They probably will. I would say that is their floor at this point.
And kind of, before we get into it, we were talking about yesterday in the back, the schedule of games this Sunday. You got the Eagles playing the Cowboys, and then you have the Ravens playing the Seahawks. So you have the teams, 2 of the 49ers on a bye. So you have the Eagles and Cowboys, who are right there with the Lions as far as racing for the top of the NFC, and the Seahawks as well. And they are playing the team that absolutely kicked the Lions' ass. So we could see at least 2 NFC losses this week, which would be huge for the Lions, especially when they're on a bye.
And you know when you might see another NFC loss? When the 49ers come off a bye and play in Jacksonville.
That's another one. That's another one.
Yes.
And your Chiefs play the Dolphins. That'll be a good game.
They're not my Chiefs. But yes, they do play the Dolphins at 9:30. They play in Germany. But yes, so
that's an early game.
So yes, that is a very, very early game. But I kind of like it. While everybody's doing the pregame show, you can have that on the TV. All right. So with the Lions being 6-2. Yes. With the Lions being 6-2 this season, obviously I know we're going to grade these guys very, very high. But I'm going to start with you, Lukas Klotz. What would be your grade for head coach Dan Campbell so far this season?
Dan Campbell, I'm going to give a B+. Just because I think there's a couple times, especially early on in that Seattle game, that last drive, that really hurt me. I think there's been some times where he could step up. But that being said, he's a Coach of the Year candidate. And I think because of that, I'm going to grade him a little bit higher than if, like, the fucking Matt Eberflus or something. Like Dan Campbell is a hell of a coach in the NFL. So I'm not just going to hand him out an A right now because I do think he can get better. And if you're at an A and you get better, you're at an A+. He's not a Super Bowl winning head coach. I don't think maybe one day he will be. I think there's a good chance of that. But I'm not going to give a coach an A+ if they have not won a Super Bowl look like they're about to this season. I think there's a chance there is. But if he does, I think there's got to be a couple of things cleaned up. This isn't discrediting him, but I would say a B+ for me right now.
That is 100% fair. JB Smoove, Dan Campbell, what would you grade him thus far this season?
A+. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. B+ though. I have to agree with Lukas. There are some areas that you would like to see Dan Campbell clean up. Some risks that you would like to see him take more and less, given the position that we are on the field. But overall, he's learning. He's growing. He's getting better. He's learning to know when to take the points or when to go for it. So I have to give him credit for that. And he's basically the voice of the Lions right now in the locker room. If you ever hear him, it's just like, yo, you are ready and willing to run through a brick wall for this guy just because of the motivator that he is. So it's a strong B+ for me.
Yeah, and his motivational skills have never been questioned, and that is a part of being a head coach in the NFL. So
like
that is
Kenny
always
Pickett
good.
Almost.
There you go. And here we go. All right, Detroit Kool-Aid, what would be your grade for Lions head coach Dan Campbell thus far this season?
I honestly got to go with like a B+, A-. I'm somewhere in between there because, like you said, a motivator. when you look at Dan Campbell, man, he is a guy that motivates me to literally run through brick walls. If his team isn't doing it, I don't put that necessarily on him. I believe he's bringing a game plan. I believe he's trying to put people and the players in the right position. And when we look at some of the Lions coaches of old, I feel like Dan Campbell is far and above the most balanced of like the Caldwells, the Jim Schwartz, where we say, oh, these guys know defense, or oh, these guys are good at being what the father figure. What they say of Caldwell, you know, I liked him, but his game management, his decision making at the end of games, sometimes just you had to question it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with Dan being a former player compared to Caldwell.
Yep, and far from what people thought, you know, entering into it. You know, the national media, when he was first hired, was saying that maybe he doesn't know ball, he's a meathead, blah, 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 blah. People were making fun of him when he was a grand marshal for the Detroit Grand Prix and had the helmet on at the press conference.
I forgot about that.
I'm just like, you know what? This guy has blocked out all the noise. He's taught his team to block out all the noise and leave it all out there on the field. They have had to battle through some huge injuries this year, and they sit at 6-2. You know what? I talked myself into an A- for Dan Campbell.
I like it.
That is a great point because they have overcame a lot of injuries. I mean, I know that the Lions are getting healthier, but this season they've had to play a large majority of their games with key pieces being out. I would say in every single game they've had at least one key piece out, especially if you count guys like James Houston, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and Emmanuel Mosley missing the majority of the year. And coaching is, I mean, that keeping the team bought in and everything, Dan Campbell has done a great job. I would give him a B+. The only, I would say, knocks against him this season, because I'm not going to knock him in anything for the games in which the Lions won. There were a couple questionable decisions in the Seahawks game. I mean, a couple fourth downs that they didn't convert on that maybe they should have either kicked the field goal or punted, which directly took points off the board for the Lions and gave the Seahawks a 45-yard touchdown drive. On the other end, the fact that they had a chance to be more aggressive and go for the win against the Seahawks at the end. Instead, they kind of played for overtime, and in overtime, they lost the coin toss, never got the ball. Those are the type of risks you take by playing for overtime. And then even in the Ravens game, the Lions just didn't show up to play. I'm not saying it was all on Dan Campbell.
You can't put that, and I know that's what you're saying, but you can't put that game on any one person.
Sure, and that was a total team loss. But one thing about Dan Campbell, which I think has been great to see, is he seems to have learned from some of the mistakes he made against Seattle. I would say his game management, for the most part this year, after that Seattle game, has been fine. Have we talked about Dan Campbell making questionable coaching decisions really at all since the Seattle game?
The only one, I would say the Seattle game. And Phil kind of says down here, and Phil, shout out Phil. I know me and him have had beef in the past, but Dan cannot beat great experienced coaches, which is fair. He's learning, and I think that's something that Dan will continue to learn. I think when you put him up against a John Harbaugh who has won a Super Bowl and has been in Baltimore, that's going to happen. There's still Pete Carroll, for example, been around the block for a while, won a Super Bowl. He knows how to create a winner. I think Dan, when he goes up against those coaches, he's going to get exposed sometimes just because this is his third year in the NFL and this is his truly first taste of a winning season. I know they were having one towards the back half of the season last year, but it's just a completely different situation. So, Phil, you're definitely right. He has lost to, like, the great coaches that he went up against, but I think that's his next step, and I think one day he will be one of those great consistent coaches just because of the player that, or the coach that he is. I think Dan reminds me a lot. I know it's kind of like I wouldn't say corny, but an extreme comparison is Deion Sanders. I think the players follow Dan Campbell because he is always 100% himself. He's authentic. He doesn't give a fuck what anybody thinks. That whole organization is like that. Dan's going to do what he does because that's what Dan does. And I think then when we talk about why players are constantly stepping up, it's because Dan believes in every one of those players, and just the energy that Dan Campbell has throughout this locker room, it translates onto the field. The trust that Dan Campbell has in these players, it allows the players to trust themselves on the field even more.
Sure, yeah, I would agree. And Koke in the chat brings up Andy Reid, who Dan Campbell certainly did not shrink against. And I think that was a big step in the maturation of Dan Campbell. That was the biggest win they've had all season. Even though the Kansas City Chiefs had some key players out, still a huge win. And he didn't pucker when the great Andy Reid was on the opposite sideline. I think that's huge. And now we got a grade 1 Brad Holmes, who...
This is a tough task to navigate.
It is a tough one, which is why Lukas Klotz is going first.
Yeah, listen.
All right, Brad Holmes this season.
I know I was very upset after that trade deadline. I shouldn't say upset. I was very disappointed in Brad. But at the end of the day, Brad Holmes knows 1,000% more than I ever will, especially when it comes to the Detroit Lions. When I look at this draft class And it translates Sam Laporta having, I don't know who would have thought it, but Sam Laporta having the best rookie tight end season arguably in NFL history. I'm going to say the best tight end rookie tight end season in NFL history. Jack Campbell, very, very solid player out there. I know JB, he's one of the guys you want to see step up, and I think he will. Again, he's a rookie linebacker. There's 2 linebackers right now that you could say are playing better than him, so that's why he's not getting that snap count.
Yeah.
Going to the second round. Brian Branch. I know we already brought up Sam Laporta, but Brian Branch, that man, just stepped on the field, contributed right away. And then we go to Monday night. Jahmyr Gibbs, the number 12 overall pick, everybody's scrutinizing him against. But then you look at Bijan Robinson right now. Looks like he's facing some of the same noise that Jahmyr Gibbs was facing at the beginning of the season. You look at the roster that he has built, the fact that he wanted to stay put at the trade deadline, not risk the future, but yet he still added a piece in Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I think will be very valuable as the years go on with this organization if they hang on to him. I'm giving Brad an A. I got to give him an A. Could I think he'd have done better? Yes, I think if he would have added a defensive piece at the trade deadline, doesn't even have to be Chase Young. Could have been somebody in the secondary. I would have gave him an A+, but I am not going to doubt Brad Holmes. The man deserves an A.
Absolutely. I don't hate that at all. JB, Brad Holmes, what's your grade so far this season?
It's definitely in the A range. I will give him a A-, but
Okay.
I'm not trying to get too heavy and give him a full A or an A+, just because, yes, the trade deadline passed, and I got to say, I was upset, and Lions Nation was pretty much upset that we didn't go out there and chase someone. As you can see, I used chase as a word there. Chase someone that, we thought that the Lions definitely needed. So I give him an A- just because he's brought in all these rookies that seem to just be doing great things and wonders. And I also believe that he has a plan in mind for this team. We don't know what it is, but as I said on the heavyweights, he's out here playing chess while we're just thinking here he's playing checkers. So
yeah,
that's my thoughts behind it as well too. But I give him an A- because he's still a solid GM. So
I think we can all agree, at least in this room, we all overreacted at the trade deadline.
Oh, of course.
We all overreacted.
Yeah.
I think D-Mac's analogy was fucking spot on it. Because I talked to D-Mac before our show over at Planet Fitness. I was like, D-Mac, is it okay that I'm disappointed that Brad didn't make a move at the trade deadline? He's like, disappointed? Absolutely. You can be disappointed. It's like when you're at your Christmas morning, you open up all your presents, you wanted that PS5. You wanted it really fucking bad. But you didn't. You got the bite.
That's a great
and then you look over your cousin. He's opening his gifts. Here comes grandma. Got a big box. He's like 2 or 3 years older. And he opens that PS5. That's what it felt like. We were all just being greedy. We were being selfish. And we all overreacted, I think, at least in my opinion. At least the people in this room.
I would say I overreacted a little bit as well. Kool-Aid, Brad Holmes. What's your grade so far for Brad Holmes?
Hey, look, I give him an A-. I really do. I believe that there's been depth. They've been able to overcome injuries with the players that he's had. Bringing back Alex Anzalone, the things that we as fans have continued to doubt. Certain things we doubted. Certain people doubted Jahmyr Gibbs. We wondered, hey, we got to get this receiving core together. And Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, Sam Laporta, the draft picks, plucking 4 starters. I got to give him an A-. And then when we wanted Chase Young and others, as soon as we posted the James Houston video and we saw that, fans were like, oh, that's right. He is here on this squad. It's just like, you know what? This is Brad Holmes' handiwork. And it wasn't like James Houston was this heralded prospect.
No, 6th-round pick.
Exactly. I got to give him an A-.
I don't hate it all. Go ahead, Lukas.
And just before, because of Flannel, I know you got yours, and we've been kind of cutting it off here. Another pick and I saw it in the chat. I forgot to bring it up. Colby Sorsdahl.
He could contribute.
The guard out of William and Mary started this week in a game where Jahmyr Gibbs had over 150 rushing yards in place of Jonah Jackson, a rookie from William and Mary, doing that.
I know.
I God forbid that Jonah Jackson is away from the Detroit Lions after the season, because there's a lot of contracts that have to be signed. He might be one of them. If they don't franchise tag him, they might have to move off of. Well, now they're starting to get a guy going that would replace Jonah Jackson. In his first week that he debuted, in a start, he looked pretty damn solid.
Absolutely, and I will make mine very, very brief. Brad Holmes to me gets an A- because they're a 6-2 team. Brad Holmes done a great job building them. I would say that the Sam Laporta and Brian Branch picks have been exemplary. The Jahmyr Gibbs one is trending towards being very, very good. I'd say the only one in the first few rounds you can maybe question is Jack Campbell, but we shall see. Broderick Martin's another one where you're kind of like, he hasn't really done a whole lot. He's only played 1 game, but on the positive end, you look at the signing of Cam Sutton, who's been a huge contributor, the re-signing of Alex Anzalone. Yep. I think when it's all said and done, I would say right now it's an A- because I'm still a little bit. I still think they should have made another move, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah. That is my opinion, not Brett Holmes, but it's an A- that could turn into an A+. But do you know what always gets an A+? Planet Fitness, where you went to work out.
Oh yeah, listen. You don't get to be a ball knower. When you got to work out some thoughts, when you got to de-stress, clear your mind, go to Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness is the home of a judgment-free zone where anyone, and I mean anyone, including Flannel and I, can feel comfortable to work on their fitness goals. And you get a tan. I don't know if you guys can tell. Been in the stand-up booth for 8 minutes the last couple days. At Planet Fitness, you experience a squeaky clean gym that has tons of equipment, a full-body workout in just 30 minutes, and all memberships include Planet Fitness training. You get all of this for just $10 a month. No commitment. No matter where you are, there's a Planet Fitness close to you. There's more than 50 in Metro Detroit and thousands more across the world.
Come to Lady Jane's for an award-winning haircut experience and register for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win an all-expenses-paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, 2 of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder.
What happens when you run a great business for over 50 years? 5 decades, you expand and offer more products to more people. This is exactly what Les Stanford did by adding Les Stanford Buick GMC, the same great service that customers have to come to know and trust on Woodward Ave, just south of 9 Mile. Check out Les Stanford in Dearborn today. Find the brand you want at lesstanford.com.
You guys ready to go around the NFL a little bit?
Let's
because
do it,
there
Flannel.
are some games. There are some games this Sunday that are absolute doozies, and I want to kind of get your guys' opinion on them. I'm gonna start out first with the Miami Dolphins versus the Kansas City Chiefs in Germany. Lukas, how do you see this game played out?
Yeah, this is one of the big games around the league this week that really don't have that many implications for the Detroit Lions, but this is going to be a fun game to watch. I'm going with the Dolphins. Right. I think the Dolphins right now are the #2 team in the NFL, and I don't think there's a way that Kansas City can possibly keep up with them points-wise. I think Kansas City will put up points, but I think Miami by at least a touchdown.
Hey, no, I would. JB, I'm gonna go to you first. JB, Dolphins or Chiefs? Dolphins or Chiefs?
I agree with Lucas. This is gonna be a fun game to watch. I predict it to be high scoring, but I do think the Dolphins edge this one out in the end, at least by a touchdown as well. So give me the Dolphins.
A good edging.
Hey, Kool-Aid. Chiefs or Dolphins? Who you got?
Chiefs.
Hey, there you go.
Kool-Aid.
You know what? That is a very, very good man, because I, to the shock of absolutely no one, have the Chiefs as well. I expect. Is it fair that you could expect a big bounce back game for Patrick Mahomes? He's had one of the worst games of his career.
Patrick Mahomes to go.
He's on the GOAT trajectory. I will say that. I will say that. And it's going to be in a, I would say I don't think there's going to be any weather. I think the German stadium is indoors. I think I could be wrong, but to me, it's just going to be a shootout, and the Chiefs win, and they bounce back from a bad loss. It was a bad loss, by the way, which I will 100% admit.
Tyreek Hill going up against his former team.
That's also another storyline. But when
I didn't even think about that.
Hey, when L'Jarius
book Tyreek for at least 185.
L'Jarius Sneed putting the clamps. No, I'm kidding.
I'm kidding. You even know.
I know. All right, this is one that actually does have some implications for for the Detroit Lions. How about the Seahawks going to Baltimore and playing the Ravens? Lucas, who you got?
The fact that it's in Baltimore makes a huge difference. Geno Smith is going to get a lot of pressure this week. It comes down to Kenneth Walker, and I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Give me the Ravens. It is going to be close, though. It's going to be a good game, and this helps the Lions out big time if they get a dub there.
Absolutely. I like to hear that. JB Smooth, Seahawks at Ravens. Who you got?
Shout out to K9, Spartan Dog, but it's in Baltimore. Give me the Ravens on this one.
I like to hear that.
The
Kool-Aid.
Seahawks.
Yes. Hey,
Yeah.
Seahawks at Ravens. Who you got?
Oh, the Ravens.
Very nice.
The Ravens.
No, I would go with the Ravens as well, especially since they're at home. I actually think it's maybe like a 7 to 10 point win, and it would greatly, maybe not greatly, because I think the Seahawks are getting the wild card anyway. But you want to see those other competitors lose as many games as possible.
And won't it feel good if the Seahawks lose after they get Leonard Williams and Frank Clark? Seeing that they're still
right. No,
they're not this unbeatable team.
That is an excellent point, Lucas, and I'm glad you brought that up. And speaking of games that have implications for the Lions, how about a NFC East matchup, the Cowboys at the Eagles? How do you see this one?
This one's not. I don't even have to think about this twice. Eagles all day. If this was in Dallas, I might be thinking a little bit more about it. But Dak on the road against a team that just got Kevin Byard and is rolling right now, it looks like they're starting to finally get their pace, especially with A.J. Brown, the streak he's been on. Give me Philly by maybe a little less than a touchdown. I still think it's going to be a difficult game for the Eagles.
I like it. JB Smooth, Cowboys at Eagles.
This one's easy for me as well, too. Give me the Eagles, and Dak throws 2 picks. Rain Dakota. Okay. I apologize.
This will be a Rain Dakota game. I'm calling that right now. I understand he looked good against the Chargers, 31st ranked pass defense.
Ooh.
Now he's got to play somebody legitimate. We're going to see him exposed again on primetime. Again.
You know what? We shall see. We shall see about that. Kool-Aid, Cowboys at Eagles. Who do you got?
I will always pick against the Cowboys, even if
there we go. Back on track, Kool-Aid.
Eagles, let's rock.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Eagles as well, because the Eagles, believe it or not, they really, really need this game. It's it's one of their with the gauntlet of games they have coming up. This one is actually one of the more winnable, and I think what the Eagles can do with this one is completely end the Cowboys' division hopes and give them, unfortunately, the fast track to the #1 seed. But even with this win, the Philadelphia Eagles could still lose a couple of games.
Say, even they got a brutal. Even after this game, they still have an absolute gulag to go through of the schedule.
They do, but if they can render the Cowboys a wild card team now, I think that would be very, very nice. And then last but not least, the Sunday night football game has no implications for the Lions, but it is a damn good matchup. The Buffalo Bills going to the resurgent Cincinnati Bengals and playing the Bengals. Who you got,
Kansas
Lucas?
City Chiefs owner, the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, finally getting his step. Who do you think I would take in this game? Who do you think I would possibly take in this game? Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals are finally getting their stride, just similar to the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, the records are different. But I really think Bengals start their quest to take the AFC North title. I don't know if they can do it 100% just because of their slow start, but Baltimore sometimes just looks like they don't show up for a week, especially last week against Arizona. Give me the Bengals, man. This game, it could get ugly. It could. If Josh Allen has one of those prime times, like where he's trying to do too much, Trey Hendrickson's a beast for the Bengals. I think he's going to game wreck. They're Sean Murphy Bunting on the outside's been stepping up for them big. Or Sean Taylor Britt. Cam Taylor Britt. My bad. He's been stepping up a lot on the outside. So I think Bengals are going to win this one for sure.
JB, who do you got? Buffalo at Cincinnati.
I have to agree with Lucas on this one as well. The Bengals are on a roll. They're starting to pick up steam. And, hey, as long as Joe Burrow can keep throwing to Jamar Chase, because he's always fucking open, you're getting a win here for me.
Just ask him, right?
Per Jamar Chase.
Yes, per Jamar Chase, and actually per anyone who watches NFL, because he is elite. All right, Kool-Aid, Bills at Bengals. Who do you got?
Ooh, let's go Bengals.
There we go, Kool-Aid. You can tell who's Bengals. Thinking.
All right, I am going to go with the Buffalo Bills in this one. I think, you know what? I think that the Bengals, I think it's going to be a very, very close game because the Bengals at home, they're obviously very, very dangerous. They've been one of the best teams in the AFC over the last 3 years or so, but this is the Buffalo Bills' time to really assert their will in the AFC, gain some ground in that division race. Maybe the Dolphins will take a loss earlier on in the day, which I predict, and the Buffalo Bills swoop right in and get that division lead. I know it's tough, but I would say right now, this is the game in which the Buffalo Bills defense, they need to get to Joe Burrow. You need Leonard Floyd. You need A.J. Epineza. You need those guys to step up, and I think that they can against a Bengals offensive line that's always been a little bit shaky. So give me the Bills by about 3.
Yeah, and Ken says in the chat, Rasul is an underrated pickup. Yeah, Rasul Douglas for the Buffalo Bills, they needed that badly. And I'm not going to preach on it much more, but that's what I was saying, where I didn't even need Chase Young. Like, a move like that at the trade deadline, I've been thrilled. Didn't happen, but yeah, that's just – Rasul Douglas is one of the most underrated DBs in the NFL by far.
And when you lose Tre'Davious White, you need to replace him with something. He's not
Tyler
Tre'Davious
Elam
White.
hasn't looked all that either.
Right, yeah. No, 100%. And I think that was a good move for the Bills. But yes, when we
even better move for the Lions now that he's out of there.
Hey, right?
But I don't know if you guys saw it. When Brian Gutekunst went to call Rasul Douglas to let him know that he was traded, Rasul Douglas laughed and hung up the phone thinking it was a joke. Oh. And then Aaron Jones texted Rasul and was like, man, they were crying on the phone, I guess. Rasul Douglas didn't even think it was possible that he would be traded from the Packers.
But yet he was. But you know what? You're going from a Packers team, which is probably going to win 5 or 6 games, to a Bills team that's a Super Bowl contender. So shout out to Rasul Douglas getting out of that prison that is the modern day Green Bay Packers with Jordan Love. All right, coming up next, we've got What's Trending, but with who?
JB, you've already heard enough from me today.
Absolutely. But first, I got to tell you about Premier Pet. When it comes to your pet, don't settle. Give your pet the best like I give my pets the best. My golden retriever, Jake, and my orange cat, Milo. Premier Pet Supply is hands down Michigan's best pet store. Family owned and operated for over 30 years. 13 Metro Detroit locations, over 60 brands of food, lowest prices, and curbside home delivery. Premier Pet Supply. Give your pet the best. Visit our website at premierpetsupply.com. And after you visit Premier Pet, you might need to get a new car. Where do you go for that, Lucas?
Go get a new car. No other place to go than Feldman Chevrolet. Feldman Chevrolet, Detroit's #1 Chevy dealer with 18 locations. There's a Feldman ship everywhere, nearly in your backyard. Visit feldmanauto.com to find a location nearest you. Since 1996, Feldman Automotive has been driven to provide a fast, convenient, and first-class car buying experience called the Feldman Advantage. Catch Woodward Sports live from Feldman Chevrolet at Novi every other Monday. We'll be there next Monday, but then we'll be right back with you with more Woodward Sports.
Calling all landscapers. This is Darren McCarty. I'm at Outdoor Equipment Co. How would you like to landscape like a legend? How about a bad boy zero turn? And even a chainsaw. And even a weed whipper. Whether you landscape for your job or landscape for fun, get all your equipment from Outdoor Equip Co., the official equipment provider of Woodward Sports. Michigan grown, family owned. OutdoorEquipCo.com.
Woodward Sports own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot off the press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Your home is your most important asset. Flexibility in the sales process is key. When you work with Mark White & Associates, you can cancel at any time, for any reason, without penalty. Speaking of flexibility, check this out. Who you work with matters. Hire the best broker in the game.
How would you like to win a $100K Vegas getaway? Take your friends and live it up in a city that never sleeps. It's the Centron Energy Drink It and Live It sweepstakes. Purchase a 24-pack today and enter for your chance to win. Register at drinkcentron.com/Vegas and buy Centron at your local Meijer store. Centron, the healthier energy drink with great taste. Look good, feel great, and be the best version of yourself with Centron. Once again, that website, drinkcentron.com/Vegas.
Oh, you know what time it is. It is one of my favorite times of the day.
Hold on, Flannel. Hold the fuck on for a second.
Yes.
So when I decided to say we've heard enough of me talking for the day, you decided to respond with absolutely.
You know what? That was not in response to that. I was talking about how it's what's trending with JB. The words just kind of got a little bit mixed. Lucas, you know I love hearing from you, man. You know I do.
JB, take it.
What's trending with JB?
All right, I'll try to keep this one as short and sweet as I can, but shout out to the Texas Rangers for winning the World Series I didn't get to watch all of the series, but I did get to see the after party that they had, and I just want you guys to check out this that was going on in the locker room. All of the beer that has been drank since their celebration. Look at all this. This is unreal. These are definitely some people that you want to party with for sure.
JB, that's like you and I after a 100K trip to Vegas.
I know. We need that 100K trip to Vegas. But, man, just look at all this right here. It's unreal. But I just had to show you guys that. But now I really want to show you guys the Detroit Pistons. They stepped up. They dropped their City Edition uniforms. And I want you guys to check these out because they are very sweet. And the court as well, too, that is going to be out there. So I got to say, the dates are over there as well, too, of when they will be wearing these City Edition uniforms. So I must know from you guys, will you be attending or at least purchasing one of these City jerseys?
I don't know if I will be purchasing because I'm not really a jersey guy and I'm a very frugal man, but attending one of these games, absolutely. I'll be 100% sure to at least get to one of these because these jerseys are they're pretty sweet. I would just like to see some wins when these jerseys are great. And that's okay.
Fair.
I want these jerseys to be on at least a 30-win team. But
you have to win 30 games to wear these jerseys.
You know what? I don't hate that stipulation. I'm kidding. No, they're sweet.
I mean, I might buy one of these jerseys just because I am a jersey guy, and I definitely will be going to one of these games. Shout out Detroit Kool-Aid. Last week he hooked all of us up.
Shout out,
and he got us seats to a Pistons game, and that shit was fun, man.
Oh,
that Pistons game, I'm gonna try to go to one of those at least once every 2 weeks. But Kool-Aid.
Yes, sir.
You're the man to answer this question. What do you think of these
these
jerseys, what they represent, and just your overall thought on the jerseys in the court?
I think they're fire, man. I believe that they executed well. You know, a few years of kind of some jerseys that were like, okay, they're cool. This one, I believe it totally emblemizes. If you guys can't tell, I got on my bad boy orange this morning. I will be buying one. I'm not much of a jersey wearer unless it's Lions jerseys. But I do have to get one. I love the focus on Detroit. You know, a lot of people are like, why not Bad Boys? Why not this? I absolutely love the focus on Detroit. I love it, man.
No, these are sweet jerseys, and there's nothing you can say about them. And and even coming up, they got a home game against Phoenix, which is going to be a really interesting matchup when they get to play future Detroit Pistons. Devin Booker, you read my mind. All right, JB, what else you got?
All right, I just got one more for you guys. So I've obtained video, and I wish Jeff was here because this is his guy. This is an exclusive video for you guys of Killian Hayes during warm-ups, and I just want you guys to grade his performance. So let me know what you think of these shots right here.
This is definitely a JB edit too.
Make it rain.
No, I mean, you can't say. We can say this. Last night was not the same case. Killian, to Kool-Aid's point, went 50% from the field. Get this man out of the starting lineup now. Now! I don't care. He can give you everything he's giving you right now off the bench. Put somebody that can give you more. I don't care if he's some defensive stud out there. I watched him against the Bulls when we were at the game. I'm telling you, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, they had their way with them numerous times. Numerous. I don't hate Killian Hayes as a person, but I'll tell you one thing I hate is Killian Hayes in the starting lineup. I don't care. I don't care if it's Marcus Sasser. Alec Burks should have been in there 3 games ago. I know he's hurt right now, but Alec Burks should be in the starting lineup.
Yeah, well,
I don't care.
Yeah, and here's the thing about Killian Hayes. I've made my feelings very, very clear on him. No matter what else he can do for the Detroit Pistons, the man in 3 full seasons has never shot above 40% from the floor or above 30% from 3. And those aren't even that good of numbers. Those are like the minimum that you should be shooting. And no matter what else you provide, I think you're a liability on the court if you do that. And this year so far, the last game notwithstanding, but even with that game, he has managed to shoot the ball even worse.
There he is right there on the screen. They're replaying the fucking Pistons and Pelicans game right now, and Killian just bricked the shot on the replay. Shocker!
Yes. JB, is that everything you got today?
Yeah, that's
awesome.
it for me.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you holding it down.
Thank you so much, man. I love it when Lukas gets a chance to be on the desk and you give what's trending to JB. We're coming back. We're going to do a little mailbag. I cannot wait to see what you guys have to ask. Send in any of your questions to any of us in the room. But first, tell us where you can watch a game, maybe have a beer, have something, some food.
That is over at Hamlin Pub. Have you ever wanted a bar where you feel like a regular? Well, we have just the place for you. Head to one of Hamlin Pub's 7 location experience where everyone's a regular and join the Woodward Sports Lions postgame show live from Hamlin Pub on Tinkin Road this Sunday. Stick, Maz, and more will be there to break down every Lions game, away game, and we will see you on for our live show at Hamlin Pub from Tinkin Road this Sunday, next Sunday as well. Experience your new favorite sports book for all things sports down at Hamlin Pub.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy?
It's Planet Fitness.
Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime. Deal ends Wednesday, September 13th.
Join now at any Metro Detroit location. Hurry, offer ends soon.
Join Woodward Sports and Long Drink live every home game for the official Lions VIP tailgate party. It's at Eastern Market in Shed number 5, and it is always a bash. It'll be starting, I believe, November 19th for their big matchup against the Bears at 9:30 a.m. until game time. The official Lions tailgate is back and better than ever. How would you like to pregame out with Woodward Sports to be treated like a VIP? Food, beverages, and entertainment all included. Get your tickets online today at bullseyeeventgroup.com or win some from Woodward Sports today. Just subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on IG, and direct message Lions VIP. Oh man, we've almost made
coming
it.
Down the stretch.
It's coming
Giving
down
you
the
guys
stretch.
as easy set of bonus rounds.
Yes, morning Woodward show, and now we're getting to one of the best parts of the day, the morning Woodward show mailbag. I got to read this one from Chuck Brewer because I actually did address this early on in the show. I was talking about Killian Hayes' shooting. Chuck Brewer says, Sam, our rookie shoots much worse. Talking about Asar Thompson.
I brought it up.
I mentioned Asar Thompson shooting 6% from 3 this season. People did not like that. People did not want to hear that at all. So you can definitely go back, Chuck. I know that you will.
Hold on, real quick.
Go ahead.
New Money says Lukas needs a Will Harris jersey.
Oh, that's just cold.
New Money. I don't know. Maybe, and it's completely fair if you haven't. Maybe you haven't heard me talk that much. But Will Harris, my friend, I'm trying to work about this robotically so it's not disrespectful. He has been my #1 player since 2021. Get this man off the team now. I don't understand what purpose he serves. If you put me in a Will Harris jersey, I will probably burn. It's one of those things where it's just like that. If it touches my skin, it's going to burn. There's no chance. There's no chance. Never will you ever see me step foot in a Will Harris jersey.
Well, speaking of Lukas, Danny G's giving you the utmost compliment. Lukas needs a permanent desk spot. Does too good of a job not to. And yes, I would definitely agree. Lukas always does a great job. Obviously, Jeff Iafrate does a great job as well. We want him back when he gets the chance. But here's the thing. Lukas already might as well be. JB might already well as be. And you got Kool-Aid whenever he's on. He basically is as well. We are a community show, and every single person does a great job. Jeff, Lukas, JB, Kool-Aid, they all have their voices heard. They all are great on camera and on mic. And I'll tell you what, I would say every single one of you in the chat have basically a 100% approval rating of everyone on the show except me. But you know what? It's all good.
Fair take.
No, that is fair. But
I love you, Flannel.
No,
I do, bro.
I appreciate that, Kool-Aid. But the point is that I work with some of the best people, and we're already a big part of the show, no matter what. Jesse Adams, mailbag. Do you have any picks for college football this weekend? And this one is for JB. I'll let you go to this. JB, is Derek Lewis getting that win this weekend in Brazil, sir?
I hope so. I haven't really been keeping up with the latest UFC matches that are going on, especially this weekend. But Derek Lewis is my guy, though. So hopefully he can get that win out in Brazil. I'll definitely be tapping in as soon as I get off of work. But yeah.
No, that is definitely a great question, a great answer. I know you are a big UFC guy. That is 100% sure. And as far as college football picks, there aren't a ton of great games this weekend. Michigan over Purdue by 50. I will definitely give you that.
USC and Washington played. Don't they?
USC and Washington. Okay.
You got in that one.
Washington.
Yeah.
LSU. Alabama.
Neil Rule has stepped foot in the studio. Everyone.
I'll tell you what.
Real game.
All right. You know what? I'll tell you what. I think LSU's winning this one. I think LSU is wrecking Alabama's season.
I actually, more than I think, I could see it, but I still am not betting against Saban compared to
Brian Kelly's a good coach,
Kelly,
though.
yeah. And he is, but he's no Saban. He is no Saban. Where's the game at?
Yeah, I believe it's at LSU, and they've got the massive quarterback advantage too. Jaden Daniels versus Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, but if Jalen Milroe turns it on, man, like if he turns it on, he's not just as good as anybody.
Oh, Neil Rule has entered the room, and that must mean that it is our cue to get out of the room because we are running a little bit late. Just like how you're treated when it's your off at Ermanni and Edwards, it's time to come on. I'm getting that treatment today, but you know what? It was such a fun show doing this.
Thank you guys. Flannel, you made it easy on me, man.
With Lukas Klotz filling in for Jeff Iafredi, JB Smooth, thank you so much, and Kool-Aid. I know you got a lot on your plate, so you coming in and filling in and doing a great job in the sound booth cannot be overstated. So for all of us, everyone I just mentioned, Flannel Sam, Lukas Klotz, JB Smooth, Kool-Aid, we will see you next Monday coming off of a bye week at Feldman Chevrolet. Have a great day, everybody. Tune into all of our other shows. Big D Energy next from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Peace.